Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Thomas Paine, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Sam Adams, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin, Benjamin Franklin. These men spoke up for what they thought was right. From their courage came such documents as the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States. From their willingness to speak what was sometimes unpopular but right, we enjoy such liberties as freedom of speech, the right to keep and bear arms, and freedom of religion. There are those who still wish to oppress our freedoms, and there are still patriots willing to stand up and defend life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Men like Zeb Bell, who honor our founding fathers and what they stood for. It's now time for Zeb at the ranch, speaking up and defending your freedoms. Brought to you by Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers and all of the other great advertisers on the program. And now, Zeb Bell.
The room was full of pregnant women and their husbands. The instructor said, "Ladies, remember that exercise is good for you. Walking is especially beneficial. It strengthens the pelvic muscles and will make delivery that much easier. Just pace yourself, make plenty of stops, and try to stay on a soft surface like grass or a path. Gentlemen, remember, you're in this together. It wouldn't hurt you to go walking with her. In fact, that shared experience would be good for both of you." The room suddenly became very quiet as the men absorbed this information. After a few moments, a man, name unknown, at the back of the room slowly raised his hand. "Yes," said the instructor, and the man asked, "I was just wondering if it would be all right if my wife carries a golf bag while we walk." This man is expected to be released from the hospital very soon. Good morning, everybody. Here comes Kate Smith, and God bless America, followed by a patriot with our Pledge of Allegiance. Good morning. Oh, there she is, that lovely lady, Kate Smith, and God bless America. Good morning, I'm Zeb Bell, Zeb at the Ranch, with our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, and of course some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and more at 459 Overland in Burley, and our dear friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service, get rid of your garbage, call Kelly, 734-6969. And I'm surrounded by a bevy of beauties on this program. Deanne here, Gina over there, and speaking of which, here's Gina.
Well, good morning, sunshine. Obviously, you have not seen me this morning because I'm not a beauty. Barn ain't painted yet.
There are days when I, of course, sit here at the camera where you can only see me from the waist up. Which is probably the very best thing to see, except for sometimes the very holy, and I'm not talking about being saint, I'm talking about holy, sweatpants and or whatever, and this morning I did, however, dress to the full extent.
Did you dress for the occasion today?
You know, when we were in broadcasting school, I'll tell you the story real quick, back in Minneapolis, a lot of us, you know, we were told to dress up when we were practicing for the TV cameras and everything, with a suit, white shirt, tie, etc.
Yes.
In Minneapolis in the summertime, we had some of the courses that went during the summertime, and we went to the classes with Bermuda shorts on, gym shorts on, whatever the case might be, and just absolutely just wore the shirt, the tie, and the sports jacket.
Actually, in the newsroom, even in actual television, that's very common.
It's not unusual. However, we picked one day where they decided they were going to have a picture of all of us to send to various TV stations for possible employment. Yeah. That didn't work out so good.
Were you wearing gym shorts that day?
I was. So were a couple of my best buddies, too. We were really pretty sloppy and we had those beach shoes on, you know. We looked really ugly. Anyhow, do we have a pledger?
We have Mr. Rotten on for the pledge and Michael Rogers on for the weather.
Very good, Gina. Thank you. Rotten, the pledge, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, my dear friend. God bless you and your wife. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I appreciate it. And right now, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, here's Michael Rogers with the weather.
Morning, Zeb. Well, temperatures are in the mid-30s. A little cool, a little chilly this morning. That's because you're on the backside of a cold front. That's that blue line for those arrows that you see on TV. What does that mean? Well, skies are going to start to clear out and dry out. The winds are still going to be with us. That's going to be a nag for us today. You can look for winds out of the west, 15 to 25, gusting to 35. That'll continue into the evening. Temperatures are still going to be on the cool side tonight. Skies are going to be clear. Sunny tomorrow, beautiful sunrise over the Twin Towers for tomorrow morning. But temperatures are still going to be on the cool side. You'll start off in the 30s and work your way up to daytime high right around the upper 40s, low 50s. Have a great day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you, Michael. MichaelRogersWeather.com, the best weatherman anywhere. Don't forget Sportsman for Fish and Wildlife, 12th Annual Magic Valley Chapter Banquet and Fundraiser. It's the Rally for Wildlife, and you can win all kinds of prizes, too. It's going to be this coming Saturday, March 15th at the Canyon Crest Event Center, and the doors open at 5:30, dinner at 6:45. Don't you miss it. Also want to remind you about our dear friends at Daryl's Cleaners. Oh, Kevin and Cindy, every time I go in there, and they put the clothes, the jeans, and all the shirts and everything up on the rack, and I'm going, holy buckets, dude, these look great. They look brand spanking new. They didn't look that good when I took them in there, I'll tell you that. They do a wonderful job, and you'll find out. Stop in Daryl's Cleaners, 1223 Albion Avenue in Burley. Absolutely the best. You know, that word, the best, is really, it gives the meaning of SafeLink high-speed wireless internet, too. SafeLink is Idaho's #1 choice for high-speed wireless internet, and you can call them and get on the program today, 677-8000. And they've got a customer referral program to where with each referral, you as a customer receive $39.95 credit to your account. Hey, you better check it out. They are growing, expanding, and their service is fantastic. SafeLink Internet, you call them, 677-8000. Really good people. All right, it's time for you to give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, you hear stories like this, but you wonder why. Why would the management be so stupid? A very aged veteran of our service, our military, and his wife were sitting in a fast food restaurant. And all of a sudden, they got told that they had to leave. And the gentleman asked the person that represented the restaurant, the fast food restaurant, why? And the people said, well, you've been here too long. Well, the aged couple sat there at the chair for a few minutes, or the table for a few more minutes, and then all of a sudden, one of the employees brought a broom over by their table and just started raising the dust off the floor and causing all kinds of problems. Coughing and hacking it caused them. And the person with the broom said, we told you to leave. Well, they got up and left. And then they made some phone calls, and supposedly this particular fast food restaurant had a 30-minute table limit. 30-minute table limit. 30-minute table limit. And after this couple found out about a 30-minute table limit, they raised holy heck about this. And then this fast food restaurant, very well known all across the world, decided to offer an apology. And here was their apology. We're sorry. Here, have a free coffee on us. A free coffee? I wouldn't go back into that restaurant come heck or high water. A free coffee for having some stupid Gunsel employee dust up your table while your food's sitting on it and then ask you to leave. They've got a 30-minute table limit, and then the company apologized and offered them a free coffee. How pathetic. And then we wonder why there's no service in America today. By By the way, our friends at Ramsey Heating and Electric at 2600 Overland Avenue, they've got light bulbs. Go to the light, go to the light, go to the light. They've got all your light bulbs, incandescent light bulbs, and they bought, I don't know, thousands, I guess. And they've got them in 40, 60, 75, or 100 watt. I bought a box, and believe me, I'm not going to run out of incandescent light bulbs. I'm not going to listen to this government garbage about how we got to get rid of all that and everything. No, not going to do it. Government regulations mean nothing to me, and they shouldn't to you either. We should all tell them to go to Mississippi. Anyway, Ramsey Heating and Electric, 2600 Overland Avenue, has all your incandescent light bulbs, all your electrical needs. Stop in where they provide warm winters and cool summers. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. I want to talk about Obama's pick for Surgeon General of the United States in just a minute. This is really, really serious. And I hope that our people back east really understand this man's pretty sinister. We need to talk about that in just a second. Valley White Home and Ranch, don't forget. Chick Day is coming up, I believe, on the 17th. Let me check my calendar. And yes, that'll be next Monday, the 17th. And they've got here a chick, there a chick, everywhere. Chick. Wrong kind of chick. But anyway, they've got all the chick food. They've got everything. They've got all the material, all the equipment. They've got everything. And oh, by the way, it's time to get ready for spring and summer and 4-H season, and Valley White has all your needs. They got all the special 4-H feeds. They've got everything. They got the Montana Silversmiths jewelry if you're looking for a gift for somebody. They've got Ariat boots coming out of their ears at Valley White Home and Ranch, 910 South Oneida in Rupert. You stop in and see them today. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Jabber.
Sir.
You know what? If I'd walked into that cafe in that restaurant and they'd done that to me, you know what would happen?
I'm afraid to ask.
It wouldn't be no open door, I'll guarantee you.
Well, I will tell you this, Al. Deanne and I were at a fast food restaurant. This has been about 9-10 years ago over in Wyoming. And we were coming back from a rodeo, and the floor was absolutely a mess. And yet here come this girl with a big broom, and she was, you know what it's like on a tile floor when the dust and everything. And we're trying to eat our meal, and she was throwing the dust and the dirt right towards our table. And I just got up and went and asked for the manager, and I said, I want my money back. And he said, why? And I said, because I'm not going to be sitting there and having some employee literally kick up the dust and the dirt onto my food. And I stood there until I got my money back, and then I walked out.
I know. I mean, some of these places are ridiculous. That's why I like where we're going at Denny's. But anyway, you're going to talk about that so-called Surgeon General?
Yeah, I'm concerned about this, Al, because I don't think, and this is my opinion, tell me I'm wrong, but I don't think enough is known about this guy as to how dangerous he is.
He's only, 38 years old?
Yeah, he's a punk.
Come on, give me a break. He's not qualified to be a dentist operator, even an assistant.
Well, it's not so much the age, as you well know. It's the philosophy.
No, we don't need that, and I hope our two senators will use their heads and vote against him.
I agree. Al, God bless you, man. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Here's what's going on, folks, and they're going to be voting on this guy in the next couple of days, and I suggest you call our representatives and let them know that you want a big fat no by the name of Vivek Murthy. Now, he is Obama's selection to be the Surgeon General of the United States of America. In other words, America's top doc. Okay? The guy's got a lot of holes in his screen door. First of all, he is very young. Second of all, he has an agenda. Now, second of all, that agenda is very, very serious. He hates guns, and he hates the Second Amendment. And he wants all doctors, and I'm summing things up and putting it in a synopsis form, so please do the reading, you'll find out what I'm talking about. He wants all doctors to be able to ask questions about your gun ownership in your home, and he wants as much of a confiscation of guns as possible. He considers them health risks. You owning guns and the Second Amendment, he considers a health risk. And I certainly hope this man does not get voted in as Surgeon General. We'll talk more in a minute. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, and the guy's not qualified. You know, he's no more qualified than these other people. But his agenda, is so left-wing, socialist, Marxist. Because disarmament is the key to dictatorship.
Hey, Adrian, I'm going to say something to you, and I'm going to sound like I'm being a racist, but I think you'll understand. The guy his name is Vivek Murthy, and he is from the Middle East, and he's a very young person, 38 years of age. He has an agenda. He doesn't like guns. He doesn't like the Second Amendment. He doesn't like our Constitution. So why are we picking somebody of that gender and also that feeling?
Well, it's just... He's a big supporter of Obama. That's his main qualification.
Yep, there you go.
That's his only qualification as far as I can see.
Yeah, but here a week ago, Adrian, a week ago and a half, actually it's been almost 2 weeks. Remember the other nomination that Obama had thrown in front of everybody was voted down and thrown away. Honestly, do you think that the second one for Surgeon General will be accepted?
It's hard to tell, with Harry Reid and company back there. Here last night, the dirty little secret, they had their all-night climate change, global warming conference. I guess the liberal senators held this thing last night. The dirty little secret is every time a volcano blasts off, it puts more CO2 and other noxious gases into the air than all of man's activity on the whole planet. And they don't even want to discuss that. It's a dirty little secret that they don't want to tell people.
Well, the 25 Democrats that talked all night in kind of a filibuster among themselves about climate change, absolutely, here we are in the middle of a Ukrainian takeover by Putin and Russia. Our economy is ready to tank. We've got North Korea testing missiles. We've got the whole world ready to blow up, but these absolute destitute for any kind of a mind Democrats talked about climate change last night that was useless.
Oh, absolutely. And I just talked to people back east on business yesterday, and they've had the longest, coldest winter, and it's not over. They got more winter coming.
Yeah, that's right.
23 tomorrow. It's just unbelievable. But it's the same old nonsense. You get a liberal news media, mainstream media, pushing this nonsense at everybody day in and day out, and pretty soon, like Hitler say, you tell a lie often enough, long enough, and it becomes a fact in the minds of people.
I agree.
And if you've watched Jesse Waters on O'Reilly, and he goes out, it's unbelievable. These college students, from Columbia University, some of the comments they were making, unbelievable. These people are totally clueless about the real world.
Well, that fact is well known, but this deal last night was nothing more than a Democratic dog and pony show for the dim bulbs in the Democratic Party and the environmentalists. I got to run, Adrian. God bless you, man. Yeah. Thanks. Thank you.
Anyway, people will wake up, because if we don't get out there, we're going to be we're in big trouble. We got to take a stand against all this nonsense.
Amen.
Thank you very much.
Amen. Thank you. Appreciate it. Caller, be right there. Don't forget Denny's. America's Diner is always open. I love Denny's. I'm saying this. I love the way that they run it. Thomas is absolutely superb. Terry, the rest of the crew, the service has been phenomenal, and the food has been great. There. That sums it up. And we moved our Zeb's Lunch Bunch over there, and we are so happy with the service. We're happy with everything. You can stop in. And don't forget, seniors, show your AARP card, 15% off your bill all day, every day at Denny's Restaurant, the home of Zeb's Lunch Bunch, and we're just looking forward to going back. You can stop in and enjoy with the whole family at Denny's Restaurant, 611 North Overland in Burley. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yes, good morning, Zeb.
Hello, Tony.
Something else coming down the pipe for us people who are on the Social Security. This administration wants to base the payments you get every month on the amount of what you use when you retire. And they figure people are more conservative when they retire They buy less, they eat less, so they should be getting less Social Security.
Yeah.
That's coming down the pipe.
It is coming down the pike, and my hatred. And, somebody criticized me the other day, Tony, for using the word hatred and hate on my program. Well, I am not about to back up. My hatred for this administration and their absolutely pathetic, simpleton attitudes on certain things, and this is one of them, about Social Security and hurting our seniors. I have no respect for this administration. I will do all I possibly can to hurt them and to come after them in every legal way, and I find them so offensive and so stupid they shouldn't be holding office at a dog kennel.
Well, he knows he doesn't have to worry about re-election this year, so he's out to do as much damage to the United States of America as he possibly can.
Well, it's not just him. It's the dim bulbs like Harry Reid and Dick Durbin and the others. I mean, they've got all the combined attitude and personality of a bowl of spaghetti, for heaven's sakes.
Well, I hope the American voters can see what's going on. I don't care what race you belong to. With the destruction that he's bringing onto this country, is going to affect everybody. Blacks, white, brown, green, whatever.
I agree. Tony, I'm so glad you brought it up, my friend, and God bless you and Mary. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You bet. Thank you. Those are two of the nicest people, Tony and Mary. They've been so supportive and so helpful, and just God bless them. In just a minute, I'm going to ask about emails in the IRS. I mean, come on. You don't really think for 5 seconds, go 3 seconds, that the IRS is going to turn loose of any information that's going to be self-incriminating on their emails. Do you? Do you? Really? Hang on, we'll get to that in just a second. Travel Loop Supply, 1050 West 203 south of Hebron, with my buddy Jim McCall and the rest of the crew. Have bolts, will travel. Have bolts, will travel. They'll be there to fill up your bolt bins with all the metric and standard bolts. And by the way, if you don't have any bolt bins, they've got the bolt bins. And believe me, they've got semi-loads, semi-trailer loads of filters where you can save up to 90%. My goodness, you better get in there or give them a call. They got all the chain for your wheel lines. They got Bubba ropes, 10% off. You're going to need a Bubba rope. Wet out there, boys. Travel Loop Supply, 1050 West 203 south of Hebron. Call them. They deliver the goods, 438-8730. It is time for the Capital Press Ag Minute, as my throat goes awry again this morning. And it's brought to you by Lennox and, of course, Ramsey Heating and Electric in Burley. Ramsey Heating and Electric can offer rebates on qualified Lennox home comfort systems, whether it's a gas furnace, air conditioner, or a heat pump. You and your family will enjoy the comfort. As a Lennox independent dealer for over 53 years, they know the climate, they know the equipment, and they've done the shopping for you. So call Ramsey Heating and Electric for Lennox, 678-0459. They will help you. Here now, the Capital Press Ag Minute.
Today's Ag Minute brought to you by the Capital Press, the West Ag Weekly.
The U.S. Department of Agriculture will redouble its efforts to shore up small and mid-sized farms and ranches with a bevy of new and enhanced programs and money, Agriculture Secretary Tom Vilsack told reporters Monday. The agency's wide range of efforts will include improved access to existing USDA resources, as well as additional support for hoop houses and expanded collection of market news information, Vilsack announced. The efforts come as the latest Census of Agriculture shows declines in the number of all farms except those with 1,000 acres or more. The number of farms earning less than $250,000 a year declined from 2007, while those earning more increased. For the Capital Press Ag Minute, this is Brandon Tenner.
For more agriculture news and information, turn to the West Ag Weekly, the Capital Press, and CapitalPress.com.
Over at the main studios, Gina is sitting there, and she's got kind of a sly, wry grin on her face, thinking that I forgot the tip of the coffee cup this morning. Contraire. Our tip, well, I did actually, but I'm catching up. But our tip of the coffee cup this morning goes to Rocky and Becca Matthews, the world's greatest neighbors, live down the road from us, and all the folks over at SafeLink. Boy, they're great folks. Great service. Sean Coons, my old roping buddy, and also Mary Schwartz, and she made us a French vanilla cheesecake pie. It knocked my boots off. Delicious. Phenomenal. Thank you. Tip of the coffee cup to those great folks this morning. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Well, my goodness, what rock have you been sleeping under?
A warm one.
Okay. What can I do for you, Keith? Go ahead.
Yeah. I think one thing that should be done before a person can even run for a public office, and that is that they should have read the Constitution. And also, if they're going to run for a public office, they should pledge to support the Constitution.
I can't argue with that, but I'd go a step further, Keith. I don't think that reading the Constitution is a question that should be asked. I think they should be asked questions of the Constitution to prove that they've read it and studied it. It's a very short book. The Constitution and also everything that's in it is very understandable, and if they can't answer the questions, then they've been nullified to run for an office.
Yeah. Another thing, I think what Congress should do with this nominee for Surgeon General is they should have some questions that only a skilled surgeon should be able to answer.
You're right now. That's a very good thought, Keith, because this man and his background have been questioned by many, many professionals in the medical field. And I've talked to many doctors across the United States. As a matter of fact, interestingly enough, I've even got a call into Dr. Elena George in Atlanta, Georgia, for her to respond about this guy. Your point is very well taken. This man is not the Wizard of Oz in knowledge when it comes to medicine and his contributions to it. I couldn't agree with you more. I think you've hit the nail right on the head.
Speaking of nails, I think this will drive another nail in our coffin.
Well, there's no question that if the man takes over as Surgeon General, he's going to have unlimited resources and different avenues of approach to where he can utilize that position to condemn the Second Amendment, gun ownership, and when he considers them a health risk, look at what he can do with advertising, etc. I mean, it's very dangerous, very dangerous.
Yeah, let's go back to the Surgeon General. You know, the one that had the beard?
Yeah.
His name is now.
Oh, my goodness, Robert. Well, let's not beleaguer the point. Go ahead.
I can't think of it.
Yeah.
But the point is, he was really strong about tobacco.
Yes.
And he knew what he was talking
Yes.
about.
Yes.
And he got some things done. Maybe it didn't please everybody, but it was the right thing to do.
Well, yeah, but in this case, you're talking about the alteration and absolutely the defamation of our Constitution.
Absolutely. And he's, like I say, if they can't live by the Constitution, they shouldn't even be able to live in the United States.
I agree. And I think your point about taking a test or reading the Constitution and or both is very well put together. Keith, it's good to hear from you again. Have a good day, my friend.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Good to hear from him again. It's been a long time. Oh, by the way, there are numerous school bond elections going on today. Lots of things going on in different schools. If your school is having an election today, be sure and check it out and go vote. Many all over Magic Valley. I want to remind you of that, okay? Calls welcome, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Barry Equipment and Rental. In Twin Falls on Addison, we got the old boy Eli. Eli's a-coming. Yes, he is, man. He's telling you all about Coyote tractors, and they got them all over the place. I had Barry Equipment and Rental. These Coyote tractors, man, I wished I had one. I just absolutely love them. They've got great deals for spring, and you better check out all the Coyote tractors that they have in stock. 465 Addison Avenue West in Twin Falls, and that brand new location right there on Highway 31 159 West Highway 30 with Nick and Rosie and the whole crew. Man, they've got them. Coyote Tractors. You check it out. Tell them Zeb sent you. DeBerry Equipment and Rental. Really good people. All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Do you honestly believe in any way, shape, or form that the Internal Revenue Service is going to supply to the committees that have asked, investigation committees, ISA, etc., that they're going to give emails that would have any self-incrimination or any shred of guilt that shows that they did something illegal or illicit against the Tea Party and others? Give me a break. They are going to give emails, and they already have, that have been so blacked out with the verbiage that there's been more blackout on the emails than there actually has been verbiage to read. And this is so silly. I mean, this is so silly that we have people like Lois Lerner that says, no, I'm not going to testify. I'm going to take the Fifth Amendment. I'm going to sit there and I'm just not going to answer any questions. And then our president gets on an interview with O'Reilly during the Super Bowl and saying, there's not a smidgen of evidence. There's not a smidgen of corruption with the IRS. Are you kidding me? You do not have to be a rocket scientist to understand that this is the old CYA approach. If you don't understand what CYA means, go ask your father or your grandfather. But anyhow, this is a mess, and we're not going to get, ever, the information that is necessary and the information that is correct. Not going to happen. Not going to happen. Calls are welcome and appreciated. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. This next little story I want to touch on this morning is so disgusting to me. And I think if I were in charge, I would blow the site up. Now Al-Qaeda is printing an English version of their Al-Qaeda terrorist magazine so they can try to recruit more Americans and English-speaking individuals. They're printing it in English. I mean, you sit there and you go, holy cow. Here is a magazine printed by Al-Qaeda, an organization of worthless, bloodthirsty, killing vermin, printing a magazine. Now they're going to put it in English so they can try to recruit young Americans. And they even have, or had until finally it was taken down from the website, a promotional video. I mean, wow. And we know that they've got various sites around the United States. Tony, my dear friend, has called in numerous times about this. Martin Moyer wrote a book about it, Twilight in America. They've been in Oregon. They even think that there's a site here in the state of Idaho, Texas, Wisconsin, upper state New York. Why are we so stupid that we can't understand that the problem is homegrown and getting worse? And now Al-Qaeda printing an English version of their magazine? I mean, just go to the doctor's office and there's Time and there's Newsweek and then there's Al-Qaeda. Good heavens. What in the world has the world come to? All right, give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Boy, the left hates Sarah Palin. They really hate her. And you know, you got to ask yourself why. She must be striking a nerve. She must be striking a chord. When she spoke at CPAC, I'm telling you what, the left really came out and they started calling her every dirty name in the book, many of which I'm surprised were even allowed to be on television. But the left and the media, they came out and they just ripped her. You got to give Sarah Palin credit. Honestly, you have to give her credit for having the moxie. Let's just call it what it is. She had the guts to stand up and condemn the stupid left and condemn Obamacare, condemn what's going on in Congress. And I admire her for it. We need more people like her. And here's a caller. We'll see what they have to say. Caller, good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb, I'll make mine real short. I want to know how long before our school system is going to make that required reading in our classroom.
You know, whoa, stop right there. You brought up an excellent point. I mean, freedom of the press and everything else, and boy, oh boy, if my little grandson came home with Al-Qaeda magazine, I'll guarantee you, whether there was a library fine or not, it would be in the quickest, nearest trash barrel set on fire.
Mine too.
You know, your point's well taken, though, Jerry.
I wonder how long for our school system will make it required reading.
Yeah, but I bet you it's going to hit the college campuses if it's not already there. I'll bet you it will be all over. I mean, these kind of things absolutely they scare me. I mean, they absolutely scare me that blatantly, wide open, out in the open, we have a terror-killing machine, Al-Qaeda, begging for more recruits in a magazine.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Well,
I'll get out of your way. You have a wonderful day, and may the Lord bless.
Oh, he already has. Thank you so many times. Appreciate it, Jerry. God bless you, man. You know, that is spooky. Good heavens. Here comes Johnny off the bus with his school books and a magazine from Al-Qaeda. That'll curdle your milk. All right, give me a call, 436-2244-1866-927-4587. I got to ask you a question here, and I want to ask this I know there's a lot of pilots out in the audience, okay, that know 10 times more about airplanes than I know. I know I was in a plane crash in 1972, and what goes up comes down, and when it comes down, it hurts. And my question is, how could a plane the size of this Malaysian Boeing jet all of a sudden just disappear? How could it all of a sudden just not have any transmission of we're in trouble, panic, whatever? I mean, unless it was a bomb that all of a sudden just went boom, like that, and it's gone. But then my question is, why hasn't there been any finding of any debris? Why? I mean, this plane is almost like it was just picked up and moved and hidden someplace else. And I know they were talking last night on the news, and they were saying maybe the pilot had suicidal tendencies. I mean, you hit the water at what, 300 miles an hour or better? Debris? I just don't understand this. And for the sake of the families and all the people involved, I certainly hope they find out what did happen. But this is weird. Somebody that flies out there is a pilot. Give me a call. And how could there not be, after, 3, 4, 5 days now, not any debris? I mean, what's going on here? 436-2244-1866-927-4587. Give me a call. It's time for a weather update. And our weather update this hour is brought to you by Butte Irrigation. Hello, Butte Irrigation. I'll tell you what, with our old buddy Bryce and the rest of the crew, they'll get you wet. Don't forget, now's the time to be updating your Pivot sprinkler packages. And believe me, they've got everything over there. They carry the complete lines of both Seninger and Nelson sprinklers. And they got the new Nelson Purple Plate Orbiter. Oh, yeah, that is very efficient for your water distribution. They've got stores in Paul and on Kimberly Road. I'm telling you, they're waiting to serve you. Butte Irrigation, where they will get you wet. Here's Michael Rogers weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Temperatures on the cooler side this morning. That'll continue throughout much of the day and also for tomorrow as you're on the backside of a cold front. But the winds are still going to be with us. You're looking at 15 to 25, gusting to 35. That'll take place throughout much of the day, and also for tonight won't taper off until tomorrow. And then otherwise, you're going to see clear skies tonight and sunny skies tomorrow, but otherwise, the cooler side of a frontal system is passing through the Magic Valley of south central Idaho. So enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
There you go, MichaelRogersWeather.com. Brought to you this hour by Butte Irrigation, 116 South, 600 West of Paul, and just a little bit north of Kimberly at Red Cap Corner on Kimberly Road. They'll get you wet at Butte Irrigation. Let's get some calls in there. Gina, you're a journalist, and you listen and study all this kind of thing. And Why? Why wouldn't there be any wreckage or something? Something in the water had that plane crashed or went down.
Sometimes it takes a while for all of that stuff to...
Yeah, but all of it? This is a big airplane, my dear.
It is a big airplane, and so you figure that there would have been something. Oil slicks, I do not know that they found oil slicks, which is indicative of a plane crash. And you figure that some of the wreckage, bodies, luggage, whatever would start floating to the surface, but
well,
who knows?
There was a gentleman the other night that was on a newscast, and he brought up the fact that maybe the plane did not go down. Maybe the plane was basically hijacked. Maybe the plane is sitting someplace on a runway in a foreign land. Maybe. I mean, but when you look at an airplane...
Okay, but if that was the case, then somebody would have had a cell phone, and whether they were texting, somebody would have been notified.
I agree. But your observation about cell phones, I agree with. But then on the other hand... You just don't fall from 35,000 feet and not have anything to show for it.
No. There's got to be something.
Yeah. And if they're going down, in most cases, the pilots are radioing a transmission of Mayday, 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 we are in a heap of trouble up here. There was nothing. It just disappeared.
And of course, this is a rhetorical question because we really don't know the answer. The black box puts off a signal. Have they tried to trace that signal?
They, right now they're trying everything to obtain and regroup on that black box. But I'm just astounded that, when something hits the water, like we've seen other plane crashes and we've talked about other bombings, the Lockerbie bombing and everything. I mean, when Lockerbie bombing of that airplane, there was material strewn for, what was it, a 50-mile radius? There's nothing.
And they were flying over open water, correct?
Supposedly. But there again, without having a transmission or a mayday or a point of where you are, etc. This is really a mystery to me. And I've been sitting there reading everything I can about it, but I don't understand how this plane could just, in bits and pieces or in its entirety, just disappear.
All right. You've got 2 phone calls.
All right, I'll take it. Good morning. You're on the air.
Is that me, Zach?
I hope so. Shoot. Go ahead.
Well, it's really a mystery because, we think in logic the way things work and happen on how this thing has disappeared.
Yeah.
But in the past, there have been planes disappear, like out in the Bermuda Triangle. You find nothing.
Well, okay, I'll buy into that somewhat, but you've got to admit, with all aboard counting the crew, 250 people, all the baggage, everything else, and you hit the water at that speed, let's say that it nosed in first, after 5 days, Doug, something's got to be floating someplace.
Well, this is true. If it come down, any logical person would say, yes, something... Not everything is going to go to the bottom of the ocean and stay there.
That's exactly right.
Right.
But then, Doug, if it was a bomb and it was blown to complete smithereens, there again, i.e., I go back to where are the particles on the water?
Exactly. That's the two logical, the way, physical forces work, you know. But yet there's another one, too, that, other people have claimed that might be, abducted, gone.
Well, and I tend to lean that way. I'm sorry, but I tend to lean towards the conspiracy theory that there was an abduction of the plane and it is not in the water, it is on land someplace. Because I can't imagine no debris. And there's a lot of boats out there, man, they're looking for it, let me tell you.
Exactly. But it was up in the air, and it just, boom, off the radar, gone.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, if it was coming down from 35,000 feet, they should be able to follow it down. I don't know how low the radar goes.
There you go.
But they could follow it down to another height. But if it just, boom, is gone, now, I know that's it's a strange thing, but alien abduction.
Well, I'm not discounting anything, because when you're talking about 250 people on a great big Boeing jet, all of a sudden, like you said, poof, it's gone like a rabbit down into a hat. I don't understand this.
I don't either, in the way we logically think.
Yeah.
There's something going to be floating. But
let's see what the next caller's got to say. Maybe they've got the answer. All right, buddy. Thanks for your call, Doug. I appreciate it. Thanks. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Of course I have the answer.
All right, there she is. Miss Answer Woman.
Well, have we heard sometime in some of these airplane crashes, is there some way to control the air in the cabin, and the passengers may have a different kind of air that they're breathing? I think that airplane was hijacked.
Okay, so you basically ascribe to the feeling that I have that the plane is not in the water.
No.
Yeah.
I just don't know how it could possibly crash in that water and stay together well enough for no debris or no indication of anything.
Well, I don't want to talk about it because it's something I don't like to talk about, but I was in a plane crash, and the pilot was killed, and I was laid up along with my father-in-law for over a year with injuries. And the debris trail, if you will, it was over land, but I mean, you're going to have the same thing and or 10, 35, 500 times worse with a plane this size, Chris. And if it was a bomb that blew it up at 30,000 feet, you got debris. If it nosed into the water intact, you're still going to have debris. It's been, 5 days now and nothing?
Yeah. Well, and at one time, because I've been glued to the TV about this, I think it's so amazing. Didn't they say that they thought the airplane took a sudden turn?
Yes.
So what is there to say that you couldn't have put something in the air of the passengers on that airplane and kept the pilot safe and just bleeped off of the radar some way? I don't know how that would happen. But anyway, I think that airplane has found an airfield, and I think it's on the ground. And I have a feeling there's some hostages that may be used for ransom.
I can't argue with you at all, because it would be foolish to discount your theory, because there's no other theory that's better than yours.
Well, no debris, no nothing.
I agree.
So there has to be something if it actually went into the water or in a mountain.
This is just completely... It's completely vexing, and there's so many question marks, and there's so many professionals. I was listening to a guy last night. He said, they asked him a question, well, you're an expert, where is the plane? And he looked at the camera and said, I don't know.
Right.
So,
right.
All right, God bless you.
I think this is something that's been planned for a long time, and there were a lot of people, or a fair amount of people on that airplane that didn't have the proper documentation.
That's true.
And they were not stopped before they got onto the airplane. And we don't have any history about those people. And unfortunately, the people's documentation that they were using had already, I think, told that they've had their stuff stolen. And anyway, it sounds to me like a much better planned flight than the average, and I think it's on a airstrip somewhere in the world.
I can't argue that at all. As a matter of fact, after everything I've read and seen and heard, Chris, you better call back east to the FAA and tell them your thought process, because I think you're probably as good as they've been doing. So.
Oh, yeah, they're going to listen to me, aren't they?
Oh, well, sure, I do.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks a lot.
Okay.
See you later.
Well,
thank you.
On.
Thank you. It's very unusual. I mean, man alive, some of the terrible tragedies that we've had to follow, and I know that there's been other planes that have nosed into the ocean, but there again, there's been some debris. Maybe you have, but I have never heard of a plane going down in the water without having debris. sooner and or later. Caller, I'll be right there. Don't go away. I want to hear what you have to say. Spring tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 of them. Oh, my, they've got all the tires on sale. Oh, my, they've got the batteries on sale. And, of course, don't forget they've got the best doggone brake service anywhere around. You better believe it. Professionally trained technicians, over 30 years experience. They know. They know. And believe me, service is the name of the game right there at all Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, serving you. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, Twist Family and Paul, John on Pole Line in Twin Falls, and my old buddy Randy on Overland and Burley, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I've heard over the last day or two that there was a couple of people that got on that plane illegally somewhere or another.
Mm-hmm.
And if that sounds a little too weird there. And I'm surprised we haven't heard from, somebody wanting ransom or something, for the... That's what it sounds like to me.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick, and I'm almost out of time. But honestly, you probably know more about it than I do, but structurally, you have something that big hit the water, whether it's a bomb beforehand or hits the water nose first. Aren't you a little bit also concerned as to why there hasn't been anything showing up so far?
Oh, I'm sorry. I can't hear you now. I can't hear too much.
Well, we kind of lost your connection, but thank you for your call. Call again, please. Okay. I appreciate it. Thank you. We'll see what the experts find today, but this is an ongoing mystery that is very concerning. And I believe, in my heart of hearts right now, reading everything I can and understanding, that I don't think that plane is anywhere but maybe on the ground with possibly a hostage situation, or some terrorist group now owns an airplane that they can do some very dastardly deeds with. We will see. Going to take a break, and we're going to come back in about 6 minutes with more. I've got Casey Givens coming on the air with us this next hour, along with my old buddy Jack Euler. Going to be a lot of fun. We got a lot of interesting things. Zeb at the Ranch. I'll see you in 6. Holy cow. Good morning. Snow on the ground here at my place. Not much, just looks like a little angel dandruff. Welcome back, Zeb at the Ranch. I'm Zeb Bell, and we thank very much our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations, along with some of our great advertisers that include our friends at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland and Burley, and our dear friends at Western Waste Services.
From the canyons of the Snake River and all across southern Idaho, we're always at your disposal. Western Waste Services, we care about our community, our resources, and this great land. Western Waste Services is lending a hand, always at your disposal. Western Waste Services.
Always at your disposal. How true that is. And along with all the trash collection, the route service, and of course the porta potties and the recycling programs, don't forget now they offer mobile storage units. Yeah, the Go Minis. These are portable storage units that are ideal for you and everybody. Just give them a call. Find out more about them. They'll deliver a Go Mini storage unit right to your location. 734-6969. The number to call, Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. While we have just a moment before our guest gets on the program with us this hour, I also want to remind you about a dear friend of ours, and that's Joel Heward, owner-manager of Hanson Mortuary, 710 6th Street in Rupert. Hello, Joel. Hello, staff. They are the nicest people, always providing the families they serve with the best possible support and comfort with the highest ethical standards with unquestioned integrity. These are nice people that really care, and they believe that every life is worth remembering, and we all should get the pre-planning on funerals to help alleviate a lot of the stress and worry for our families. Give them a call, 436-5636, Hanson Mortuary in Rupert. Let's go to the phone lines right now and talk to it. This is a good old boy. I mean, old Casey does a good job, and he's bailed me out of a couple of wrecks when I've had some guests cancel and everything. And case in point, this morning, right now, we're going to be talking about a young man that's a policy analyst for Americans for Prosperity Foundation. Casey Givens, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Zeb. Great to be here with you.
You know, what is your official title right now? I mean, man, you got more titles than I've got horses out in the field right now. So what is your basic title?
Yeah, I got several titles, but I guess editor would be the most appropriate one, yeah.
Okay. Now, we are going to be talking about a subject, and I read the cheat sheets that you sent me, and I'm going to tell you right now that possibly, very possibly, on one of the issues that you wrote about, I might be a little bit on the other side of the coin, surprisingly, and but I'll let you kind of carry the ball and tell us, what are we going to be talking about this morning as far as science and liberals?
Absolutely, Zeb. Well, kind of one of the popular myths that you hear a lot in the political discourse today is you hear a lot of liberals claiming that conservatives and libertarians and those on the liberty side of the political coin are anti-science. And they often point to climate change and things like that to make the case that really the liberals, are enlightened when it comes to science, and conservatives aren't.
Well, let me interrupt you right there, Casey. Casey, let me
There's a lot of political issues today where that if you really look down to it, it's the liberals that are on the wrong side of the coin. And my article, which was recently published in The Blaze, points out three, and I think two of which energy issues are particularly important. One is fracking, that has been shown to be a safe and reliable way of extracting oil and is really creating an economic boom in states that have embraced it, like North Dakota. And the other one is the Keystone XL pipeline, which is creating thousands of jobs, but has been stymied and held up by President Obama from completing the final leg of the project.
I agree with you. We're absolutely in total agreement, but I'm trying to thumb through the sheet real quick, and I've got to ask you a question before we go any further, because you and I totally agree on fracking, and we also agree on the Keystone Pipeline. But I'm trying to find the inference that what about global warming? I'll tell you right now, I am a hardcore disbeliever in global warming. With the studies that I've conducted on my own, all the literature that I've read, all the scientists that I've talked to, everybody, I absolutely am not a global warming believer. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think global warming is a very complex issue, and I think there's a few things to unpack in it. I think, one, there's the question of is the Earth's temperature naturally, or is the Earth's temperature getting hotter? And I think there's enough scientific evidence to say that conclusively that it is. But then there's a few questions that follow from that. The next question is, one, is this a result of human activity? Is this a result of factories, pollution, the greenhouse gas effect? And I think the evidence on that is there's really not conclusive right now, because of probably, as you can probably tell your listeners, all the research you have done has really shown, and there's really kind of been an overblown, kind of talking point that you hear that there's a scientific consensus that humans are causing global warming, but I think there's quite a bit of doubt. Doubt that doesn't point to that. That's not to say that humans aren't causing global warming, but I think that really, before any action is taken, there really needs to be more of a scientific consensus.
I absolutely agree.
Then there's the third question of, let's say that humans are causing global warming. Is it the role of the government to enforce, to put carbon caps, or to take sort of action against companies and against countries from polluting it in that sense? And I think if global warming is happening, it would be devastating for governments to enforce any sort of anti-global warming measures on the world. I mean, if we really think of, what a lot of liberals claim to be are the greatest polluting countries, like India and China, they are polluting because their factories are producing goods for the Western world, which is consequently raising their poor populace out of poverty. So I think that if any sort of restrictive measures were passed on these countries, we would see just massive poverty, especially in the third world. So there's a number of different questions, but I think at the very end, regardless of whether global warming is man-made or not, the consequences of government enforcing some sort of anti-global warming measures would be devastating for humanity.
I agree. Now, I'll just throw this into the mix, and then we'll go on with the other categories. Casey, you have to admit this, and I know you're a very knowledgeable young man, and I have a lot of respect for you, and I think you'll perceive this as the truth. Global warming is not a bad thing. It's a good thing for the CO2 that's discharged into the atmosphere for the growth of plants, and also all types of people all around the world flourish better in warmer climates than they do in the cold and severe. And if we, as many have predicted, are going into a global cooling cycle, that's going to be devastating for many points of interest around the globe.
Absolutely. In fact, there are some pundits out there who actually warming could be economically beneficial.
Yep.
And I think another point to note about global warming, that if you really kind of look at the arc of history, that the scientific community, there has been a scientific consensus for and against global warming that has been very erratic over the past few decades. In the 70s, there was a consensus for global cooling. You know, what happened to that?
Right.
So I think that really, with these kind of huge claims of a scientific consensus, you have to kind of take a responsible grain of salt with it. And also ask what are the consequences of government action and enforcing certain things like anti-global warming policy, which I think would be devastating.
Casey, I want to get right back, and the one I want to center on the most for the time remaining is the Keystone Pipeline. I don't think, and tell me I'm wrong on this, but I don't think the general public really is informed about how many existing pipelines there already are through the Midwest. I don't think the general public knows how safe these pipelines are, and I don't think the general public really appreciates how much good this Keystone Pipeline would do for America and our price at the pumps. But we're being held hostage right now by the idiocy and incompetency of the Obama administration kowtowing to the environmentalists. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, let me just kind of explain to some of your listeners who might not know what Keystone is. So Keystone is a pipeline that pumps oil from the sands of Alberta, Canada, down all the way down to refineries in Texas, and along the way throughout the Midwest, like states like Nebraska, Iowa, Montana, and so it is literally pumping Canadian oil and creating American jobs. While, you know, of course, the outcome of this will be hopefully cheaper gas and lower energy costs for Americans. And so most of this pipeline is already completed. The legs from Alberta to Texas have already been completed. It's just kind of one last leg, kind of a shortcut that spans that kind of takes another leg that takes it from Alberta halfway, kind of a shortcut to pump oil even faster, called XL, has been held up by the Obama administration. Literally, the president has the authority to approve of the pipeline today, if he wished, by ordering the Department of Energy to approve of the project. But it has been constantly held up by the Department of Energy and by President Obama for various hocus pocus, false environmental concerns. But the Keystone Pipeline would be extremely beneficial for Americans, and Keystone XL would create thousands of jobs. The Energy Department itself estimated that Keystone XL would create 40,000 jobs for Americans, which is and it's direct construction, which is extremely beneficial, especially during this economic downturn. But that's just the direct jobs that would be created with Keystone. There's also the indirect economic activity that happens through these jobs, through workers going home with their paychecks and stimulating the economy through buying in the private market. So this is really just an inexcusable holdup of the Keystone Pipeline. President Obama says that this year is going to be a year of action for his administration. Well, this is a great first step to do that, to actually create jobs through the stroke of his pen by approving of Keystone XL.
Casey, let me ask you this question, and of course you're in the hub of this, the thick of this idiocy every day with the environmental movement, of which I have no respect for whatsoever. The true environmentalist is the farmer and rancher that takes care of the land on a year-by-year basis to produce the crops to feed the world, etc. But when you talk about these absolute nincompoops that sit there with signs that say clean, green energy only, and they absolutely run down everything else, and they're holding us hostage. Minority numbers are holding us hostage and have the president by the nape of the neck. Something's got to change. I'm fed up with the environmental movement. I'm fed up with the absolute disdain that this administration has for progress in this country. Will he sign the okay or not?
Well, I think for Keystone XL, I think fortunately there has been enough pressure building up against President Obama that I think eventually he will indeed sign Keystone XL. The president has approved previous legs of the project. It's really just kind of this last leg that environmentalists have been making such a hubbub that he stalled so much. But I think regardless, President Obama's stall really sets a dangerous precedent of the executive, of the commander-in-chief, giving into these false environmentalist concerns that is really a disturbing trend. So I think for Keystone XL, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, but nonetheless, real environmentalists, real Americans who are concerned about creating jobs and preserving the environment at the same time in a responsible way, which XL does, should be concerned about President Obama's actions in stalling this responsible project, and look to the future to make sure that their politicians actually are held accountable to creating an economically safe environment and great environment for job creation.
I agree. Casey, we've got a caller with a question for you. Go ahead, caller, real quick, please, nice and loud. Go ahead.
Yes, in the near future, President Obama and his minions want to shut down 57 coal-fired power plants, which would include 175 generators singularly. And he has no idea what he's going to replace it with, other than he keeps talking about wind and solar and biofuels. Wind accounts for 0.9% of the total generation of electricity in America. Solar accounts for 0.4. That's not even 1%, and they talk about this like it's going to save us. I mean, seriously, when will people realize the reality of where we are? And there's no way you can cut that kind of energy out of our system and expect America to survive in any way that it should. And I'll hang up.
That's a very, very good point. Casey, go ahead and direct your answer to that, please.
Absolutely. That was a great call, because actually the caller brought up another energy issue that the Obama administration has been essentially waging war on, which is coal. Just recently, the EPA proposed a new rule, which is called Utility Max, which is really putting just impossible new regulations on the coal industry. President Obama himself has said in public that he wants to make it so expensive for coal factories to essentially not run. So this is a dangerous war that the Obama administration is also pushing on coal, which is really dangerous for American energy, because as the caller mentioned, coal is a much more widespread energy resource than any of the other kind of green little agendas that the president's administration is pushing, such as solar, wind, etc. So this war on coal pushed by the Obama administration could really have some dangerous implications and really raise the cost of energy for average Americans in the future.
Casey, you are the editor of Young Voices, and you're a very sharp young man, very sharp, very well educated. But when you talk to other people your age, are they aware of energy out in the hinterlands, as far as like out here in Idaho, or maybe in Wyoming, or maybe over in Oregon? Energy that's needed to go out and plow the fields, energy that's needed to go harvest the crops, energy that's needed for trucks to haul the cattle to market. I mean, energy is needed. You're not going to propel a John Deere tractor down the rows with a windmill. The idiocy of this government, the incompetency of the Obama administration. What are the younger people saying about how absolutely destitute of any mental gray matter this administration is showing towards energy?
Well, that is a great question, Zeb, and I really think that there's a lot of hope in future generations of millennials like myself. Kind of one stereotype that of younger generations, which actually has some good reason to be a stereotype, is that, we're all Obama-loving, liberals who support big government. And, it's certainly true. It's easy to see that with the youth folks going to President Obama in 2008 and 2012. But I think that young people have become so disillusioned by his job-killing policies that there really is hope for the future, for a future of more of a populace in favor of more of limited government and liberty. There was actually one recent study I read recently put out by Harvard that actually showed that a majority of young Americans aged 18 to 29 disapprove of President Obama's job approval of what he's been doing in office, of his policies. So I think that young people are really waking up. And there's a number of youth groups, that of a more libertarian and conservative persuasion that have just been exploding on colleges over the past few years. Namely, Students for Liberty and Young Americans for Liberty have gotten just galvanized thousands of students across the country towards the message of limited government and liberty. So I really think that in the future we're going to see, hopefully in the future, America of more liberty and responsible, more limited government, if the youth can truly be galvanized around these ideas of liberty. So I think there is hope for the future in the youth.
There's a lot of hope in the future if we retain and help people like you to get elected and run for their constituencies to serve them. I've got a lot of faith in you, and I really appreciate your coming on the program. Casey, final thoughts. Are we going to see, in your opinion, and make this a short answer because I'm almost out of time, are we going to see a drastic increase? We've already seen about 10, 12 cents added on at the pump naturally going into the spring and then also the driving season for summer. Are we going to see some enormous increases in prices that are going to absolutely cripple our economy even further this summer?
Well, I think not. I'm not sure about in the short term about if we're going to see any drastic increases, but I definitely think if the Obama administration and the future administrations keep up these job-killing policies and giving in to environmentalists, then it could have some major implications, especially on energy and average Americans' energy costs with heat, electricity, gas. That could really have some devastating economic consequences.
All right. I want to compliment you, young man. You do a wonderful job, editor of Young Voices, and I've been very, very high on the way he has helped me line up guests, and he's welcome anytime on this program. Casey Gibbons, God bless you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks so much, Zeb. It's been great.
All right, buddy. Thanks so much to you, too. Wow. Interesting young man. Very interesting. We're going to have, we go from the young to the old in just a few minutes. We go from the young in spirit to the old in mind, both Jack and I, in just a second. Just kidding. Jack's as sharp as they come. Stand by, but I want to tell you, everybody, you need to check on your insurance. You need to check on your life insurance. You need to make sure that your health insurance is in order. You need to talk about retirement planning. Yes, you do. We need to talk about employee employee benefits, you need to make sure that you have the nucleus of protection for you, your family, and your business. Well, you need to talk to Cameron and Siemens Insurance. Dean and Todd are dedicated and responsive to all of your needs. Please get a hold of them today. Number to call, 436-4424. Cameron and Siemens Insurance, serving you. You know, we're going to get him on early this morning. I've got one more little word, and then I'm going to have Jack Euler, a dear friend, come on the air. We've got more follow-up on the wolf issue, and we're going to have that in just a minute. Don't forget, 67th anniversary sale going on right now. It is a spectacular at Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. They've got all the sofas. They've got all the accessories. They got all the lamps. They got all the occasional tables. They've got all the carpet. They've got all the bedroom sets. They've got all the mattresses. They've got everything for the beautification and comfort of your home. Please stop in today and see the professionals that really know. That's Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. You stop in and see them today. And you turn off your cell phone. Jack Euler. Jack, good morning. It's nice to have you on the program. How are you? He's trying to... Can you gather that microphone up over there, or are you on the cell phone? Forget the phone. Hang it up. You're on the radio now. They can call you back. How are you this morning?
Good.
You know, now, in all honesty, we don't have much time. We've got about 30 minutes, and I'm not going to waste any of the time this morning. You spent a lot of time and effort writing a very, very good article that was about a page and a half long, typewritten, about environmental groups and the courts regarding the wolf issue. And you wrote this article primarily to have it published in the Times News so that everybody could understand basically some information they don't see or hear anywhere else. Take us from that point as to, did the paper accept it or not?
No, they did not.
Why?
They finally told me, they called me when I was in Boise this last weekend and told me it was too many words for both the general article on the opinion page for the weekend and too many words for letter to the editor.
All right, why not make it an article then? Because I'm looking at the front page story that went on to another page. It was so big in length, and it was written by Brian Smith, and it talked about the wolf debate and the Colts death highlights threat-riddled debate. This thing went on, and yours would have fit easily onto the first page. I mean, I think the length was not really an issue.
I told the paper I was a little uptight, and they called me while I was in Boise for 3 days, 4 different times, and wanted to talk about this issue and wanted to talk about this article. And I said, you know, write the article. I said, if my name was Rocky Barker, you'd print it. But my name isn't Rocky Barker, so it's not going to get printed. But you know, it's just the facts of the situation is all it is.
What is the main contention right now? The story was about the fears of the wolves, real or perceived. What is it about this article that was written by the Times News, Brian Smith, that really aggravated you the most? What was it?
Well, there's a lot. The whole article aggravates me because...
In what regard?
People do not have to be the way they are towards each other. And number one, the guy from Lewiston, Steve Alder, he sits behind a computer up there, and he won't come out and talk to people eye to eye.
Okay, so wait a minute. Let me clarify this. Steve Alder is on the side, if you will, of being anti-wolf, but you're criticizing him because he sits in his room behind a computer and tries to run all of his business without really looking people in the eye.
That's right. I've tried to get him to the State House with me on many, many occasions, every year that I'm there, including this year, and I can't get him there. But go past him. You know, the environmental groups, I've been threatened in past years by them.
Now, let's stop. Let's stop right there. When you say threatened, what kind of a threat are you referring to? And be honest.
My life was threatened.
Really?
Yes.
Because of your involvement in trying to stop the reintroduction of the wolf.
That's right.
Now,
I've been doing it since 1999.
Actually, earlier than that.
Right.
You started back in 1995. Right. And I know because I rode with you to a lot of meetings. And I also know what you said is exactly the truth, that there were some threats against you and your stand against the wolves. So
That's
take
right.
it from there.
Well, and this is what bothers me about this whole issue. The people in this issue will not sit down at the table and talk. But what disgusts me more goes back to my article that I wrote for the paper and the fact that they won't talk about the facts, because the environmentalists come to agreements, or you can come to agreements with them, but they won't live up to the agreements, or they forget them when they walk out the door.
And in your main contention, and I'm synopsizing things here a little bit today, Jack, because of time, your main contention is that it's not necessarily the salvation or the preservation of the wolf or anything like that. It's just to garner more money for their groups.
It is all about money, and that's what my article says. And another point to be made is, in this article, I refer to Dr. Tom Bergerud from British Columbia. I have worked with Dr. Tom Bergerud from British Columbia. He is a biologist with 40 years of predator-prey relationships. He told me he watched a herd of 100,000 caribou go extinct because of predation, wolf predation. Did the environmentalists care or do anything to protect the caribou? No. Instead, they send out letters that say, treating top predators like vermin violates the public trust. Save the life of wolves. Donate now.
What do you think about this story coming out of Haley with a family, the Swigert family, that lost a colt? I've got the pictures. I've got everything on my desk in regards to how this colt was just absolutely ripped to shred by the wolves. And then the wolves came back and got their dogs. And let's give a little background and be fair on this situation. The Swigert family originally, according to some of the research that I've done in the Haley area, actually were pro-wolf, and then all of a sudden their attitude changed, didn't it? It seems like once they got bit by the old wolf, they changed their mind.
That's right. And they tried to do things like all these articles suggest, non-lethal means of protecting your cattle, your sheep, your...
Let's talk about that. Stop right there, because I think that is absolute idiocy, these non-lethal means. I mean, they're talking about some kind of fencing with the ribbons on it, and they're talking about night herding and bringing all your livestock in, which is absolutely ridiculous when you're running a rather large cattle or sheep operation or whatever. Jack, they just don't have common sense.
You're right. And this happened, this horse was in the corral.
In the corral by the barn.
Right, when it got killed. I mean, what are you supposed to do? There's no common sense to any of it. But it's like I said, do you hear anything from the environmentalists about that 100,000 caribou herd that went extinct?
Yeah.
No, you don't.
If I were to say the following on my program tomorrow, I would be besieged, and I know that Kim Lee, the owner of the station, would be besieged with people that would be absolutely livid. I'm going to come out and say, and this is fictitious for right now, you never know, it might change in the future, that Zebeth Ranch is going to organize, starting this fall, a huge wolf hunt derby. We're going to have a open bounty on wolves to get rid of them. I'll guarantee you the environmentalists will come out of the woodwork.
You're right. And Sportsmen for Fish and Wildlife right here in Twin Falls 3 years ago held their last coyote derby.
Yeah.
Because we had so much problems with the environmentalists, and they went after our sponsors, which was Nike. Nike pulled out. And
But we're not going to. The thing I want to
the one in Bliss with rock chucks.
Yeah.
They've pulled out now.
Yes.
They've quit.
Yes.
Because of the environmentalists and the pressure.
The thing about predators and predation in southern Idaho, let's just leave it to right here, our area, has got to the point where there's protection for all the killers and all the malcontents, which are the predators, whether we're talking the wolves or the sage grouse issue. Am I not right?
That's right. Totally true. And the environmental groups, they don't care about the sage grouse. They don't care about anything but the money. You take this, and I refer to it in this article, the spotted owl and the timber industry, the mining industry and the salmon. You can go on and on and on about the issues.
I want to get back to these non-lethal deterrents that these people of limited mental capacity with the wildlife pro-wolf people, that's all at a cost. All at a major cost to the livestock industry, and really they're not worth a hoot as far as working.
Well, it's completely true. And this case in Haley is a good example.
Yeah.
These people had their animals in the corral. They didn't have them out on the mountainside.
Okay, let's go to the money. You have said and stated many times in this article and other times you've been on the air that the environmental movement isn't about the protection of or the promotion of the animal per se. It's lining their own pockets and their own group with money, with the solicitation of funds, especially with mailers going back east, etc. It's all a cry, 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 but beg for the money type situation.
They do it all for money. They could care less about the deer, the elk, the cattle, or the sheep. It is all about money and all about putting money into their coffers. Now, if they cared about the species or about anything, they would give that money to state agencies that manage those things for future, to propagate them down the road. But they don't. They would rather spend it on attorneys and courts.
Okay, I was going to say, now people are going to be sitting in the audience saying, okay, Jack Euler, how can you prove that? Can you prove that?
Yes, I've been to court. I've been to Missoula on the wolf issue 3 or 4 times. I've sat in that Ninth Circuit courtroom in Missoula before the judge and listen to what went on, and these environmental groups talk.
My next question, I'm going to do a commercial, and I want to come back and I want to talk about our governor, okay, and his reaction and or advocacy of getting rid of the wolves. I want to talk about that in just a second, okay? Stand by. Don't forget, let's ride Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. Let's ride with all the great big selection of side-by-sides. Oh, my goodness sakes, they've got them all for you. And all the ATVs, and they've got great rebates and great low interest rates. They've got dirt bikes for the young at heart. They've got everything, including a super parts and service department, the best guys in the valley, to help you, and all the accessories too. What a great place, because it's true, that's where the fun is sold. Let's ride Highway 24 between Rupert and Burley. You stop over and see them today. We're on the air with a dear friend of mine, Jack Euler. Now, I want to ask you about the governor. Governor Otter, many, many times, has been on this program, and we've discussed the wolves. I don't think that he likes the wolves any more than you and I do. However, has the governor done enough to voice his disdain for the wolves and protect the agreement that was made for 10 breeding pair and 100 wolves? Has he done enough?
No, but he has tried this year with some pressure from cattlemen to put up, trying to get the legislature to put up $2 million, and then
but they're not going to do it.
And then the Sportsman's Fund is supposed to put up $110,000 a year, and the Cattlemen's Association $110,000 a year for wolf predation or wolf control in the state of Idaho. Now, last Friday I talked to the people up there in the legislature. Is it going to happen? No, it is not going to happen. Maybe 400,000 this year. I don't know. But if anything comes out of this, 400,000 will come out of it.
Jack, why can't there be, and I'm simplifying this a little bit, but you talked about it earlier, about coming to the table. Okay, you said that. What is the problem with having the people like Suzanne Stone with the Northern Rockies, Defenders of Wildlife, and others of her ilk? What is the matter with them coming to the table with people like yourself, and even me at that meeting? I've been there since 1995 with you. And sitting down and putting the agreement that was agreed to with the 10 breeding pair, 100 head of wolves, and discussing why that hasn't been met, why that hasn't been honored, and why they want to keep expanding it. Why can't there be a face-to-face confrontation and get this thing settled?
Well, I don't know, because these people do not want to. I come to the conclusion, and that's why I wrote this article for the paper. These people have come to the conclusion that they do not make money if everything is going along.
If it's at a status quo.
Yes, and they don't want 10 breeding pair or 100 wolves. They don't want 15 breeding pair or 150 wolves. They want 650. That's not enough. They want to keep going. They want to keep going.
And the reason, I see your point, and it's very vivid, the more wolves, and then when there is a movement like what had happened at Salmon, or what I might try to do on this program to have a wolf derby, then they send out all the flyers to people all across the country, oh, save the wolves.
And they don't talk about the real issue.
Absolutely. Caller, we got just enough time to get you on the air. Go ahead, please.
Yep, I got a comment. You know, they claim that the wolves have killed over $1 trillion in big game, and that was a couple years ago in the state of Idaho alone. $2 million is not near enough to take care of our wolf problem. They need to give a lot more than that to solve the problem. And I'll get out of you guys' way because Jack talks a lot better than I do.
All right, thank you so much.
Day, and may the Lord bless.
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you very, very much. Respond to that, Jack.
Well, I agree that a lot more needs to be done, but I don't think the taxpayers of Idaho is the ones that should be doing it.
Absolutely not.
We were forced to accept these wolves when they were brought here, and and the government should live up to their agreements and quit pulling out and leaving us with the bill.
Okay, let's break this down a little bit. The wolf management has been passed over from U.S. Fish and Wildlife to the state Fish and Game. Okay?
Right.
They are supposed to be managing the numbers. Now, there is a licensed hunt for the wolves here in the state of Idaho.
Let me interrupt you, Zeb. When the wolf was delisted, which it is at this time,
yeah.
Then the wolf become a big game animal under Idaho statute.
Right.
And as a big game animal under the statute of the state of Idaho, the Fish and Game manages all big game. And so this is why the situation is where it is today. That's why the Fish and Game is managing the wolves. And it's just the way it is under the statute.
Okay, but now let's talk about the management aspect of it. Managing what numbers? Now, we don't really know, do we? There could be 1,000. There could be 1,200. There could be 750. There could be 650, which those numbers far, far exceed the original agreement. So now on management, what tools of management can be used to get this thing down where it should be?
Well, hunting and anything but...
I'm not convinced hunting's going to work.
Okay. Are you talking about management by the Fish and Game or by Wildlife Service?
All right, let's talk about, first of all, Fish and Game with their hunting program, with the licensed hunting, et cetera, to go shoot them as a big game animal. They are not going to deplete the numbers enough to make management numbers what they should be. Am I right or wrong?
That's probably true. I don't think, unless we have snow and you can find them in the snow, I don't think we'll ever get the numbers down to where we're supposed to have them. But nobody talks about these numbers anymore. Nobody talks about 100 or 150.
Why wasn't it brought up in the article that they wrote in the paper?
Have you seen it in any of the articles?
Yeah.
When the wolves were brought here, the agreement was that when they reached 10 breeding pair or 100 wolves, they were recovered. As far as the environmentalists, as far as everybody was concerned, and then they could be delisted. We did state management plans and went to 15 and 150, but nobody ever talks about this anymore.
Yeah.
The Fish and Game Commission today, their goal is to bring those numbers down to 150.
They have to.
Their goal
We
is
have to.
Right.
All right, we have a call. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
Yeah, Jack and I talked about this here a couple of weeks ago. What I told Jack they need to do is hire some of them trappers out of Canada, the guys that trapped them to bring them in here. They know how to do it. Spend some of that money and get some of them guys in here that know how to trap them, and they can take care of them. They can trap them wolves and reduce the wolf population in the state of Idaho.
That's a very good point. Let me have Jack answer that on the air. Fred, thank you very much. Good point, sir. Thank you. Thank you. What about that? That makes common sense.
I agree to it 100%. And the environmentalists, when I did the right to hunt, fish, and trap bill, what were they opposed to? They were opposed to the trapping portion.
How did they get here in the first place?
That's right. That's what my article says. They were trapped in Canada and brought here. Some of them died in the process, which they did. I know that to be a fact. And let me tell you something else that's going on behind the scenes. The environmental groups are trying to defund wildlife services so that they cannot do what they do in managing wolves, which is aerial gunning, or whatever Wildlife Services does for the ranchers and the sheepmen when they have a problem. And so they're trying to defund that. And so we're working on two fronts. We have to work in Washington, D.C. to keep money going to Wildlife Services. And I got about 10 pages. Excuse me.
You also got a cold.
Yeah. I got about 10 pages of stuff yesterday that they thanked us. This Peter Orwick from USDA Wildlife Services thanked us for our support for continuing money flowing to Wildlife Services. And we have a list of 160 people.
Here was a comment in the Times News article that I had to laugh at a little bit, and I'm going to take the time quickly and read it, and then I've got to do the weather forecast with Michael Rogers. It says, rather than gather arms to defend against threats after an unsavory wolf encounter, those living in wolf country should prevent depredations on livestock and other animals. Living with predators is part of life in Idaho, and wolves aren't any different. Are you kidding me? These are killers that kill just for the sake of killing, and they're not any different?
I have articles that talk about the people around the world that are killed. France, there is 6 or 7 a year that's killed by wolves. In Siberia and Russia, there's several people killed every year. All of these...
It's going to happen here. It's going to happen here.
Yeah, it's going to happen here, and I think that will bring everybody to light as to what's going on.
Don't choke to death, for heaven's sakes. Take care of your cold. Wear a jacket in the wintertime. It's cold out there. I got a weather forecast I got to take care of, and it's brought to you this hour by Red's Trading Post, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Fitting that we should be talking about guns and ammo. Load up, boys. We're going to have a wolf hunt. And believe me, all your guns and ammo right there at Red's Trading Post. And if you want to trade in your firearms, they give top dollar trade-in on firearms. No one gives you more for trades than Red's Trading Post, and they're located at 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Here's the weather with Michael Rogers Weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Temperatures on the cooler side this morning that'll continue throughout much of the day and also for tomorrow as you're on the backside of a cold front. But the winds are still going to be with us. You're looking at 15 to 25 gusts and a 35. That'll take place throughout much of the day, and also for tonight won't taper off until tomorrow. And then otherwise, you're going to see clear skies tonight and sunny skies tomorrow, but otherwise, the cooler side of a frontal system is passing through the Magic Valley of south central Idaho. So enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
Thank you very much, Michael. Brought to you by Red's Trading Post. The best in guns, ammo, and accessories, 203 5th Avenue South in Twin Falls. Jack, I read both articles. I read yours very carefully and highlighted it, as you can see, the points, the strong points, etc. And then I read the Times News article and highlighted the same. I honestly think, and this is the way I feel, that as far as the wolves in the state of Idaho, we are at a bigger divide between anti and pro-wolf than we've ever been. Am I wrong?
No, that's completely true. And, we've sat down, we've come to agreements, and we'll live up to those agreements, but the environmentalists will not.
We have a caller with a quick question. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air, please.
Okay, in 1993 or whatever it was, Alaska told us how stupid we were for letting them put wolves in here because they said there is no way to control them. They've been doing it early with trappers and everything else, and it's never worked for them. So how do we expect to control them? Thanks.
That's a very good point. Jack, go ahead and make a reference to that.
And, you can kill 20% of the wolves every year in the state of Idaho, and there will be more the next year than there is this year.
Absolutely.
Because the numbers are, when they have pups and everything, go from 25 to 27% higher every year.
Okay, so what's the answer? I want to end this with some kind of a concrete resolution that can be done. A, aerial gunning. B, trapping. C, the fish and game, more enhanced methods of management. And then on the other hand, poison. And then on the other hand, you've got groups like Defenders of Wildlife and everything crawling out from underneath their rocks, begging for money, begging for the lives of the wolves, and turning the media and the general public against the state of Idaho. We're in a no-win situation.
We are, and we are fighting. That's why I brought this up about Washington, D.C. We're fighting this fight. Those that are in it are fighting on two fronts. We're fighting here in the state of Idaho, and we're fighting in Washington, D.C., because the goal of the environmental groups is to defund wildlife services and to get wildlife services, or U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, to dictate management of all big game in every state, that we have in the United States.
All right, we got a quick call. I've only got about 2 minutes left, caller. Fast, go.
Zeb, I was at a bull sale, the Cattlemen's Connection bull sale in Bliss, Idaho yesterday, and the president of the Idaho Cattle Association was there, and he gave us a little talk and was asking for money because Idaho Watersheds out of Ketchum, who you're talking about, bid against the cattlemen there for the AUMs in the South Hills, and the BLM has sided with them, and they want 50% of the cattle taken out of the mountains.
Oh, my Lord.
And so the Cattle Association's hired an attorney, and, of course, they want $50,000 up front with $50,000 more down the road to try to fight them. But I don't know all the details. I don't run on public ground. Mine's on private ground, so I don't have all the facts, but they talked about it at the auction yesterday, and I wasn't aware of it, and people were donating money, but it goes right along with what you're saying right now.
Would you do me a favor, and I want you to call me sometime today at my cell phone number. If you got a pen, write this down fast, and I want you to call me off the air. 312-2976. Call me, please.
Okay, will do.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate your call. See, right there, Jack, I don't care what
those
aspect.
are the things that are going on.
Yeah, there's little by little, inch by inch, day by day, there's a concentrated effort of the environmental movement to move everybody off of the land, whether it's private land or whether it's public land, and put these absolute insane ideas of wolves coming back as predators and allowing them to rule the roost, and our wildlife, everything else is subject to what what the environmentalists want to have.
And let me tell you about Western Watersheds and the ranch that they own at the mouth of East Fork on the Salmon River.
Okay, quickly, you've only got 30 seconds.
Okay, that is the biggest mess of weeds that I have ever seen, and other ranches up that canyon, up East Fork, are beautiful, green, everything.
Absolutely.
And, they don't take care of anything.
Quick answer. I've only got a short time. Make it fast. How can we fight back? Is there a way to fight, and I mean fight back?
Yeah, you got to get involved. You have to get involved in issues, and you have to do things. It's just like that rancher said, you got to do it, and that's why I go to Boise.
Absolutely. I have so much respect for this man because he's committed his life to fighting for what is right. Jack Euler, my dear friend, thank you for being on the program this morning. We've got to take a break for 6 minutes. We'll be back with Dr. History in just a few minutes. Don't go away. Zeb at the Ranch. Have a good one. Oh, good morning. Thanks again. Go to my dear friend Jack Euler for coming out here. And Jack takes a lot of time and effort out of his daily work schedule to devote towards the preservation of our wildlife here in the state of Idaho. And God bless him for all that he does. Hey, we're brought to you by our major sponsor, your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers, all 7 locations serving you, along with some of our great advertisers, including Lee's Furniture, Floors, and More at 459 Overland in Burley. And, of course, our friends at Western Waste Services, always at your disposal. Get on the route service today. Call them at 734-6969. Let's take a look and see what's a-cooking at the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Oh, today, lasagna! I can't say that without that Italian flair. Lasagna with garlic toast and super salad. You better stop in. It's great. And you're going to enjoy the atmosphere and the environment and all the sports memorabilia, the great people, and the fantastic food. At the Chadwick Sports Grill, 139 West Main in Burley. Here now is the Western version of lasagna. Carrie is Dr. History.
Good morning, Zeb. How are we doing today?
Not too bad. How are you?
I'm doing great.
We get so many calls about your programs, excuse me, all the things that you investigate in Dr. History. And we had an idea, and I'm going to just kind of put you on the spot a little bit. We had an idea, you had the idea, actually, and we're going to try to make some of these tapes of this program available. How are we coming out on that?
Well, I'm hoping this month that we get this out on the Internet as a podcast.
Okay.
So that people will be able to listen anytime they want, and they'll be able to go back and listen to previous stories. So I'm hoping this month to get this actually finally out there.
All right. Well, I just wanted to mention that to you and see what your thoughts were. Now, that being said, what are we going to tantalize history buffs with today?
Well, how about a blue roan man-killer horse and a cowboy?
There's been quite a few roans that have been man-killers, especially a red roan in the movie called The Rounders, but now we're going to talk about a blue roan. Go ahead.
The blue roan man-killer.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to talk about 2 guys. One guy, and I don't know his real name in the story, he's just referred to as Shorty.
Shorty. Good old Shorty.
His real name. And he had a partner by the name of Joe.
Uh-huh.
Okay, now, their job was breaking out horses for a ranch called the Jim Little Ranch on Lost River. Now, that's up near Howe, Idaho. Now, I don't know if you know where that's at.
I do.
Okay, up towards, Chalice and Stanley and up that direction? Or by Idaho Falls, somewhere up in there. So, anyway, this is where he got tangled up with the Blue Roan. It was an outlaw horse that had already killed 2 men and crippled a lot more.
Holy cow, why didn't they go get the 30-30?
Well, that's coming.
Oh.
Don't get ahead of me here. Now, an outfit like that, they need a lot of horsepower, and Big Jim, their boss, he was Big Jim Little, he was the boss and the owner. Anyway, he just bought 40 head of horses from a nearby ranch called the Myrup Horse Ranch.
Okay.
Now, he told Joe and Shorty, he said, now they're all geldings. He said, now break out the ones that will make good buckboard teams for me, make saddle stock out of the rest. And so they were waiting for this 40 head to come. And anyway, Joe and Shorty, they describe it that it was a hot day. The new bunch of horses was coming in. So around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, we saw a dust cloud up on the hills about a mile to the west of the ranch. It was the new horses coming like the wind straight down the hill toward the ranch. And he says, what a sight. Their manes were flying and their tails streaming out behind them, and they were being pushed by 2 hard-riding cowboys from the Myrup Ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they ran, they opened up the gate, and the leaders entered in on a dead run, and the herd thundered through. Well, right on their heels came the 2 cowboys from the other ranch, and they closed the gate. And the 2 cowboys, they said, well, there's your 40 head, he said, and with 1 extra throat in, free of charge.
Oh, they got rid of him, did they?
They said, so which one? Well, what's the joke? He says, well, it's no joke. He says, he's the Blue Roan, and he's sure no joke. You'll know him when you see him. He's all scarred up and mean as a mountain lion.
Uh-huh.
They said, well, what'd you bring him to us for? Well, he said, their boss said to get rid of him. He said, if you don't want him, just shoot him. So, anyway, what'd your boss mean? I asked when he said to shoot him. And they said, well, I'll tell you. He said, that Blue Devil is a 10-year-old outlaw. He's already killed 2 men and mangled a few others. He kicks, he bites, he strikes. He'll kick the spurs off your boots. He'll reach around and grab your leg in his teeth and pull you right out of the saddle and stomp you to death.
Oh, my goodness. It sounds like you want to go to the rodeo with him.
Yeah. They said, nobody has ridden him yet. Last man he throwed, he jumped right in his middle and pounded him into mincemeat before we could stop him.
Holy cow.
So, right off the bat, you can tell this is no ordinary just bucking bronc. I mean, he's a mean son of a gun.
And you watched your words carefully.
And, you know, they said it wasn't hard to spot the Blue Roan, although they said he spotted us first, and he backed his scarred rear end up against the corral, and his narrowed eyes studied us, and he braced for any move we might make towards him. And there were old rope marks on his nose, and one of his hairy ears was lopped over as if someone had tried to tear it off, and you could tell he was ready for battle if that's what we wanted. Well, he was a battle-scarred old warrior for sure, and anyway, they kind of ignored him, and Shorty and Joe, they settled back into their work of breaking out harness horses, and they kind of forgot the Blue Roan.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the 2 Myrup boys, the 2 cowboys, stayed overnight in the bunkhouse with the other hands from the ranch, and they started talking, and they kind of filled their ears full of stories about the man-killing outlaw horse. Well, Joe and Shorty, they bunked in another cabin, and they didn't notice what he refers to as the Blue Roan fever. Well, then one morning, one of the other hands started talking and says, you know, Joe, you or Shorty ought to ride that Blue Outlaw. Well, the Myrup Ranch hasn't got a man that can ride him, and if one of us could, that would make this ranch the top outfit in the valley. Well, Shorty he was thinking, you know, I'm a cowboy, and I ride these kind of horses, but I don't want to do that.
Shorty showed some common sense.
Yeah. He said, you know, I hired on to break horses, and you know, horses for the buckboard and for riding. And he said, you know, I'm not a show rider. I'm just a cowboy, and but their reputations depended on just being good, steady men who knew their business and just stuck to what they did best.
Ooh.
Well, as you know, Zeb, back in those days, there was a lot of pride the men had in themselves and the outfit they worked for.
That's exactly right. They rode for the brand.
Oh, yeah. You ride for the outfit you're with, and loyalty they felt for their boss. I mean, the hay hands, they'd work hard to put up more hay than the next range.
Yeah, that's right.
There was pride in having the fastest horses and the best cook. I mean, all the hands were extremely devoted to a good outfit.
Yeah, but when you got a hammerhead like this, it might be better to just poison the son of a gun.
Well, old Shorty, he knew, he said, I was the best rider on the ranch. So I knew very well if the Blue Roan was to be ridden, I had to be the one to ride him. And he says, suddenly I realized I was scared of the Blue Roan.
Uh-huh.
And I don't blame him. He said, I hadn't hired out to ride an outlaw that had already killed 2 men. And he said, my pride did not go deep enough to be thrown by a man-killer and stomped into jelly.
Yeah, but you know, the old adage comes in here, never a bronc that couldn't be rode, never a cowboy that couldn't be throwed.
That's right, yep. Well, unfortunately, you know, the peer pressure got to him. The men thought that he was showing yellow, thought he was a coward a little bit.
Yeah, they thought.
Yeah, they weren't going to get on him. And so he says, I knew right then that I had to ride that outlaw sooner or later or get off the ranch.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the next few days, he'd kind of ride out. He'd look at the roan and kind of study that old blue roan. And he noticed he didn't move away like the other horses. He'd turn and face me, he says, like a cougar.
Yeah.
And you've seen horses like that, Zeb.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, well, one night it rained and wet the hay down, so the next day the crew didn't have anything to do. So they were all just hanging around the ranch, and old Shorty says, little bit, I guess, that some of the boys had cut out the blue roan, put him in the round corral, and were saddling the outlaw with my rigging on his back. So they came over to Shorty and they say, we got the blue roan saddled, and he's all ready for you. Well, old Shorty said, suddenly my legs got weak. Can you imagine?
Oh, my.
He said, I found myself automatically slapping on my leather cuffs, pulling on my chaps, buckling on my spurs, reaching for my hat. He said, I did all that in a daze mechanically. I could hardly walk as I went out the door and headed for the round corral. He said it was like walking to the gallows. He says, I saw the men already sitting around on the top logs of the round corral waiting for the show to start.
Oh, boy.
Then I saw the blue roan, and he said I darn near fainted.
That's not exactly what he said.
Well, you know, this is a family show.
Right.
Well, the old outlaw was standing on 3 legs. They had one hind foot tied up.
Smart.
Had a rope coming up over the saddle horn, and tied one leg up, the back leg. And his old familiar bronc saddle was tied on, and the horse was blindfolded, and there's a big old red-headed blacksmith who was as big and stout as a bull, and he had him eared down. So we know what that is.
Absolutely.
For our listeners, basically, he had a hold of that roan's ear. May have been with his teeth. I don't know.
Might have been. Should have been.
Should have been with his teeth, holding that roan. And the roan was standing as quiet as a kitten, but I knew that he was waiting patiently for his next victim. Me. Well, Shorty says, I called on all the willpower I had to walk across that open space to the round corral. Every man was watching me intently. I did not dare show what I was thinking. Now, he says, when I reached the gate, I saw Joe, his buddy, his .30-30 rifle leaning against the corral. And he said, I thought that was a funny place for his gun to be.
Why, I would say.
It didn't occur to him, actually, at that time. And then he kind of forgot about it. But he said, I took an undue amount of time to open the gate as I walked through. Again, I'm thinking, take as much time as you can. This will be your last ride.
This is the guy's last mile, man. He's a dead man.
Yeah, it's like going to the guillotine or whatever, the gallows. So he said, I saw my first glimmer of hope. He said, the blue roan was standing ankle deep in old, soft, they call it litter. I'd probably call it manure.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, which had accumulated over a few years, and the rain had kind of softened it a little more.
Oh.
So instinctively, he says, I knew that this litter was going to make it a little harder on the horse and easier on me. Well, just then Joe reached my side and said, Shorty, you can ride that horse. You've always been better on a crooked horse than a stiff-legged bucker, and I know you can do it, so good luck. Well, he said, then I was at the side of the outlaw. I took up more time by checking my rigging. I could feel the strength coming back to my legs, and for some reason I was losing my fear.
Yes.
Well, he says, I took my loaded quirt, and for the people that don't know what a quirt is, it's kind of like a short, whip, I guess you would call it.
Yeah, it fits over your wrist, and in case you let go of it, it just hangs there.
Yeah, and not very long, but you have kind of a softer end and a harder end. And anyway, he took that and put it on his wrist.
He'd have been better off with a Louisville Slugger.
Yeah, baseball bat. Well, he said, I grabbed the horn and I eased over onto the old horse, and he said, I grabbed the reins, found my stirrups. He says, I settled into my saddle, nodded my head at the blacksmith to turn him loose.
That was the worst thing he could have done.
That's the worst thing. Well, where do you go from there, you know? Well, I'll tell you. Almost in one motion, he said, the old Irishman, the blacksmith, he let go of the outlaw's ears, jerked the rope free of the hind leg, lifted the blindfold, and he says, I knew that I was probably astraddled the worst horse I'd ever been on. He said it was like sitting on top of a barrel of gunpowder.
Oh, my.
So as the blind was jerked, I saw the roan's ears flatten, and again, for people that don't know about a horse, when those ears flatten back, you know you're in trouble.
There's an indication that there might be something severe, yes.
Yeah, you know he's going to do something bad.
Yeah.
Well, he said he turned his ugly head to the right and glared at me out of one droopy eye.
Oh, this isn't good.
This isn't good. He said, I brought the heavy loaded quirt down between his hairy ears and with a dull thud. Well, he said the horse gave a coughing grunt, squatted, cocked his legs, pulled the trigger, and blew up.
Oh, my.
After 55 years, he says, I can still remember that first terrible, vicious jump. He sprang sideways to the left, trying to get me off balance, then right, and then he lit to one side, he said that I could feel my foot touch the ground.
Oh, boy.
So you know how hard he's jumping.
Yeah.
Left, then right again. Well, he wasn't getting rid of me, so he swapped in so fast I could see his rump. I thought that was a good description.
Well, yeah, but there's another way to put it. Go ahead.
Yeah. He said, my brains, if any, were getting addled, he said. Everything was a jarring, whirling blur, but I still had my balance, and at this point, he changed tactics.
Uh-oh.
He pitched in a tight circle round and round until I was so dizzy I hardly knew anything at all. He said, then suddenly I realized that he was slowing down. He was beginning to tire.
Aha.
And he said, my senses warned me about his teeth and how he used to reach around, drag men out of the saddle.
Oh, my.
So he said, I clubbed him up alongside his head and kind of began to hit him, and I started raking him with my spurs. I pounded him on top of the head to keep him from coming over backwards, because, you know, that's what they'll do. They'll rear up and come over backwards.
Absolutely. They'll do anything.
Yeah, so he smacked him between the ears again to keep him from doing that. He said, I had lost all reason. My arm was getting tired from using that quirt. He said, at last, the roan was making only a few feeble efforts, and I felt my own reason coming back.
Uh-oh.
He said, I lifted my spurs away from his body, and the old blue roan was stumbling to a halt. And when the blue roan stopped dead still, I sat there for a minute just trembling.
Yeah, but wait a minute. He shouldn't have given in to weakness.
Okay, well, we're not too bad here now.
Oh, okay.
He said, I had not wanted that horse to kill me, and now, he said, I didn't want to kill him. So he said, I eased myself out of the saddle. I could hardly stand. I had taken a beating. Well, you can imagine. You know, you've been on horses that have been rough riding, and, you know, they'll beat you up a little bit.
They can send you to a guy by the name of Dr. Ken Turner.
That's right. Or worse. And he says, as stability came back, I noticed the sweat and foam on the old blue outlaw's body, and he said his trembling legs were spread wide apart and barely held him up. His head hung low, almost to the ground. And in short, he says, I felt sorry for him.
Oh, that was a mistake.
Yeah, well, not really. Let me finish the story here.
Okay.
He says, a yell went up from the men who had been watching. It was a yell that a common rider like myself only hears once in a lifetime.
Uh-huh.
And he said, but I kind of felt no sense of victory. He said, only relief that the job was done and that the fear was gone. Well, he said, as I turned to go, I saw Joe with the rifle, with that 30-30 in his hands, and suddenly he said, I understood. He had given me all the breaks in every way, the round corral, the soft manure, litter, whatever you want to call it, and if necessary, he would have shot the blue roan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the story of Shorty and the man killer, the blue roan, that finally got ridden by the Jim Little Ranch.
Yeah, but there's got to be a little bit more to this, because I mean, were they able to use him, or was it just a one-time occurrence to get him saddled and ridden, or what?
You know, it doesn't say.
You better do some checking.
I'm just guessing that once he was ridden, you know, you got to ask yourself, was he really broke? Was he, you know, would anybody else dare get on him? I don't think so. Even after he rested and, you know, I don't think any of the other guys would dare to get on him again.
I'll tell you what, for all the animal rights lovers out there, oh, what a pretty little horsey. That's the kind of a horse you want to say, come on over here, he loves you. Get on him and take him for a ride through the park.
Yeah. So, you know, there's some horses that you can ride them all day long and you can be heading back to the trailer and they'll just explode again.
Well, you know, all I know is that they're out there. They are out there. And some of those, if they're stallions, their offspring are the same way.
Yeah. Well, I had a bucking horse a few years ago that I sold to somebody, and I said, now this is a bucking horse. And he said, no, he says, my daughter, she's a horse trainer. She can take the buck out of that horse. And, you know, I said, well, I just want you to know that that's why I'm selling him, because he's a bucking horse. He unloaded me, and I do not want him. And a few years later, I met that guy again. I said, well, how'd that horse turn out? And he said, well, you were right. It was a bucking horse, and just what I said, they could ride him all day, and they'd be headed back to the trailer, and he would just unload.
Stevens Brothers Rodeo Company, I got to tell you this story real fast. Stevens Brothers Rodeo Company, they used to be on the PRCA years ago, and I used to announce quite a few of their rodeos. They had the former Saddle Bronc of the Year called Ripcord, and after my boy was born, that horse was an excellent saddle horse outside the arena. They would use the horse to gather the livestock and everything else for the rest of the up at the ranch, but once you put him in a bucking chute, he knew what he was there for. And I've got a picture of my son while he was 2 years old riding old Ripcord around out behind the bucking chutes just like he was an old plow horse. But the minute you put Ripcord in the chutes, it kind of reminds you of what you were saying about the old Blue Roan.
Yeah. Well, you know, you've seen horses where they have that look in their eye.
Oh, yeah.
And when they have that look in their eye and when they lay those ears back, you know there's either going to be a kick, a bite, something's going to be coming real quick. You better be getting yourself out of the way.
Absolutely, and those are the kind of horses that, of course, you and I at our age, we just smile at and walk to another corral.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep, I'm past those days.
Oh, man. Anyway, that was a good story, but you don't really know whatever happened to him, do you?
No, I wish I did. I wish, you know, they'd have kind of finished and said, well, you know, we put him out to pasture and he lived till he died or something. I don't know.
That's almost exactly like the red roan that they used in the movie called The Rounders. Remember that? With Glenn Ford and, oh boy, I'll think of the name in a minute. But Henry Fonda. And Glenn Ford. The Rounders. And that red roan horse was doing everything. It purposely would run into trees and everything else.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you know, horses learn tricks. You know, even a good horse, you know, sometimes you put a non-rider on a horse and they know they can go underneath the tree. And
and then the people that are selling them, they always say, well, come on, what's the matter with you? He's a kid's horse.
Yeah, I was on a kid's horse once when I was a kid, and I was going through a gate, and I forgot that there was a electric fence wire just about forehead high.
Oh.
As I went through the gate, I was looking down, and that electric fence hit me right in the forehead, and the next thing I remember was looking at the horse's rear end, heading down the pasture, and I was laying there in the dust.
Oh, my good. And that's why, ladies and gentlemen, he enrolled in chiropractor school.
That's right. So, unfortunately, I can't fix myself.
Hey, great story. I appreciate it, Dr. History, better known as Dr. Ken Turner. God bless. That was a good one this morning. I appreciate that.
Well, thank you. I kind of like that one. So.
All right. Well, what's next week?
That's a good question.
That's why I asked.
I don't want to spoil it by telling you.
There you go. I love that answer. God bless you, man.
Have a clue.
Have a good day. Thank you so much.
You have a good day, Zeb.
All right, Dr. History. I love that. The story of the old Blue Roan. Hey, don't forget, every Thursday on Zeb at the Ranch, we have a segment called School Days in Cassia County, brought to you by two wonderful sponsors, A Child's World and Ambulatory Surgery Center. Don't forget, at A Child's World, they've got children's books and games and all kinds of fun things, and all the clothing too, all the infant shoes, and they've got all their new spring clothes coming in, and they gift wrap for free. Always a great family store, A Child's World, 1308 Overland in Burley. And don't forget too, Ambulatory Surgery Center. They're located at 1344 Highland Avenue in Burley. Number to call, 677-8888. They've saved Magic Valley folks hundreds of dollars with outstanding care for over 14 years. And don't forget, they also have life-saving colonoscopies that are performed right there. All you have to do is call 677-8888. Child's World Ambulatory Surgery Center, bringing you School Days in Cassia County. We'll be back with more in just a few moments.
And now back to Zeb at the Ranch on AM 1230 KVAR. To reach Zeb, call 436-2244 or toll free 1-866-927-4587. And now, here is Zeb back.
Oh, welcome back, and we're in the last half hour of our program here this morning, Zeb at the Ranch. And Gina, are you having a little problem trying to get a hold of our guest?
I just talked to your lovely bride about that, so yeah, he's not available today.
The method that we used to obtain him for this time, evidently they had put down the wrong time. It was not Deanne's fault, it was not our fault, it wasn't anybody's fault here on this end, but they gave him the wrong information, so we don't know where he is. So here I sit in my studio, and I'm looking at my computer, and I'm looking at the little camera, and I'm going, help!
It's kind of usually the way it goes when we have a guest to drop. So open phones, I guess?
Yeah, maybe? Open phones, and we've done this in the past. If you have any gripes, complaints, things that really make your skin crawl, make you itch with absolute anger, give me a call and we'll discuss them. Like having guests that are told the wrong time to be on the program, or whatever.
Well, we've got a phone call.
Oh, thank goodness for these programs.
There you go.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, Zeb?
Yes, sir.
Hey, that story that bird just told, he reminded me of the old castration of the strawberry roan. Maybe that's where it come from.
Now, you, of all people, you know that there's a lot of those hammerheads out there, and they will get you, won't they?
I just sold one last spring that was kind of the same way.
If it's the one I'm thinking of...
All the kids said they weren't riding him no more. I knew the old man wasn't going to ride him, so...
Now, you told me...
Little frisky packages.
You told me about that horse, and you told me you could go along and he'd be just as nice as a June day, and then all of a sudden turn into the whirlwind of November, right?
Yep. Yeah, well, okay, I just thought I'd throw that in, but that's a pretty good song, that castration of the strawberry roan.
All right, well, by golly, I appreciate it. I know you're standing out there with your cows because I just heard an old mama cow talking to you.
Yep, okay.
All right, George. Thanks, buddy. George Montgomery up on the mountain, and he's babysitting those cows this morning, getting a lot of calves. Calls are welcome and appreciated. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning, Zeb.
Well, good morning, sir. What is your gripe, complaint, or any other criticism that you want to expand upon?
Well, I'm happy as a fat pig in the sun.
Oh, okay. Well, what have you got for me?
Well, you know, you mentioned that movie about the Rounders.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that movie. That's my favorite.
Well, go ahead.
It's, you know, that horse, that horse was the star of the show, wasn't he?
Well, the movie I thought was a good movie about two old cowboys in Arizona that absolutely, they were never going to get off that mountain in the summertime. They were going to stay up there the rest of their lives, and that horse didn't help matters any. I thought it was a darn good show. I enjoyed it.
old Chill Will, you know. He was a fast one, wasn't he?
You know, he was in quite a few Westerns. He was in a lot of John Wayne movies, and he was in quite a few Westerns for quite some period of time. And then I never did hear what happened to him, if he died of old age or if he had some kind of a heart attack or whatever, but I don't know whatever happened to him.
I don't either, but he was quite the character. I can remember in that one John Wayne movie, McClintock.
Yes. Yes.
But I love the Westerns. That's why I have Dish Network, so I can get the Western channel.
You know, and I do the same thing. I do the same thing, and believe me, that's the first one I turn on if I'm not watching the news.
Yeah, and it's usually some pretty good ones. But, you know, I think I've kind of run the gamut with Gene Autry and Roy Rogers.
Well, I've seen every one of their...
I don't enjoy them like I used to.
I kind of agree with you. I've seen every one of their serials, if you will, at least 27 times, and I agree with you. But, you know, that was wholesome Western cowboy entertainment.
It sure was. And, you know, I don't think they can make a Western now that appeals to everyone, because you had to have... what did they used to call that, horse opera?
Yeah, exactly. Hey, listen, man, I appreciate your call this morning about the Rounders and that old roan horse. Thanks for the memories on that. Appreciate it.
You bet.
All right, thank you. You know what? I'll play a little bit of a contest here. And let's see if Gina might even know this answer to this question. It might be before her time, but I will give a Zeb at the Ranch steak knife. These are nice steak knives, and they got Zeb at the Ranch on the handle and everything. I will give a steak knife away to the first person that can call in with the answer of who was the star of the television series Stony Burke. And she's playing
Stony
Bonanza
Burke?
in the background. Stony Burke.
I am.
Yeah,
I have no idea.
I didn't think you would. It was probably before your time. But you know what? You know the actor.
I do?
You do. You know the actor. You've seen him many, many times. And you know him immediately when I say the name.
Well, we've got somebody on the phone, so let's go with them.
All right, we'll take that call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Oh, nope.
Oh, my goodness. They decided they didn't know the answer after all. Who was the actor that played Stony Burke?
Green.
Pardon me?
Lawrence Green. I'm stabbing in the dark.
No, Lauren Green was Pa on Bonanza.
Okay.
Canadian-born actor that also...
Justin Bieber?
Isn't that disgusting? Oh, Justin Bieber, what a waste of hot air. Ay, ay, ay.
We've got another phone call.
Okay, you're coming up with some real good answers, Gina.
Hey, I'm trying.
Good morning, you're on the air.
Yeah, was it Montgomery, his last name?
Nope, you're not even close, but you've seen this actor, and he was featured on many TV series, but one in particular besides this one, but that's not the right answer.
Okay.
All right, buddy, thanks a lot. Stony Burke, television series about a rodeo cowboy, way back in the year. I got another phone call. Good morning, you're on the air.
Good morning. How about Jack Lord?
Who is this?
Diane Ringel.
Diane Ringel. Where do you live, or where can I make sure you get the steak knife? Because Jack Lord is correct.
Dude, I'm good, aren't I?
You're very good.
I'm old.
I got to write your name down here, Diane Ringel. And how can I get this steak knife to you? I tell you what, why don't you stay on the phone and give Gina your telephone number and your address, and we'll get it to you, okay?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And Jack Lord is the answer to that. I remember watching that program every week where he was Stony Burke, rodeo cowboy. And then, here's another question for another steak knife. What TV series did he become really well known at? He was in another TV series later on, and it was the epitome of his entire career. What series was it? Jack Lord. Okay. I'll give another steak knife away. Diane Ringel won the first one. Now tell me the name of the TV series that he played later on. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. And Gina should know the answer to this one. And I've got my telephone ringing here.
To your cell phone?
I can't take that call.
And you've got another phone call on the line.
All right, we'll take it. Good morning, you're on the air. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, go ahead, please.
How about Hawaii 5-0?
Who is this?
Paul Peterson.
Paul Peterson, you are absolutely correct. Paul, stay on the line and tell Gina your number and your address, and we'll get a steak knife to you, okay?
Thank you.
You betcha. Thanks for calling. That's right. He went on and starred in the detective series Hawaii 5-0. And that was the history of Jack Lord. And he loved living in Hawaii so much that he never left that state and stayed there. And he was quite an artist, too. Quite a painter. Jack Lord. There you go. Got the answers. Gina, anything else? Anybody with gripes, complaints, or whatever, give us a call. 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587.
I just had to find the theme song for a second.
Yeah, and remember what one of the junior detectives was said Jack Lord would always say to him after they've made the arrest?
This show was out before I was born, Zeb.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought sure you were born then. It had to be in the, 70s.
1969 is actually when the theme came out.
Okay. But Jack Lord would always look at one of the junior detectives and say, "Book 'em, Dano."
Book 'em, Dano.
Yeah.
All right, we've got another phone call.
Okay, we got another call coming in. Good morning, you're on the air.
And they hung up.
Don't you just hate it when we're in need of a guest? Our guest has run away. We are absolutely looking at the clock, praying for the minutes to tick away, and the phone rings. We think we are blessed, and they hang up.
Isn't it? It's always the way, though. That's just kind of the way it happens.
Did you hear? I got to tell you this story. Did you?
Bob's calling in.
Okay, well, we got another call?
Yep, Bob.
Bob. Okay, Bob, you're on the air, Bob.
Okay, Bob's on the air, Bob.
Okay, Bob.
Just want everybody to get out and vote.
Yes, today all the school bond elections all over the valley.
School bond elections.
I mentioned it earlier this morning, and I'm glad you mentioned it again. And if you're having a school bond election in your area, get out and vote. Don't complain. Just go vote. Right, Bob?
Right.
Okay.
Now, one other thing. I couldn't get on. Wasn't able to get on when Jack Euler was on. But what is this $2 million that the governor wants for wolf control? What will it do? Where will it go? What'll happen with it?
You know, hopefully, and I'm giving a kind of a quick synopsis here, it's going to be used for wolf management to ascertain getting the numbers down to where they fairly should be. And it was, I think, for trappers and other mechanized means of trying to get the numbers down that are hopefully manageable. As you well know, the licensed hunt, has not done the job, and some of the other mechanisms that they've implied have not done the job, and we have got to get these numbers down to a manageable number.
Well, I just was wondering if any of it was going to go for, like, bounties.
You know, Bob, I'm not going to say whether it would have gone for bounties or not, but management basically to get the numbers down to a reasonable number. Right now, the environmentalists, with their lying and cheating and backing out of the agreement, there's been reports that we have over 1,000 wolves in the state of Idaho. There's been reports that it's only 650. But whatever that number is, it's far exceeding what the agreement was for.
Well, the government we have today, there's no agreements anywhere. It's all them or nothing.
Well, I tend to agree with you there. They don't honor the agreements that they do sign, which has been a trait of our United States government with the people in this country for a long, long time.
Yeah. And old George Montgomery up there, he sure he gave you quite a deal there on that blue roan horse. What to do with him?
Personally, in the case of the story, knowing how bad that blue roan was, the 30-30 sounded like the best option.
That was quite a story this morning. I appreciate that. I like to listen. Thank you.
All right, Bob. Thank you so much. Hey, we've got to do a weather forecast, and then we'll take some more calls because our guest is not here with us this morning. A little bit of live radio and the repercussions of not having a guest. And the weather this hour is brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road in Jerome. Oh, my goodness. It's the locally owned custom meat processor serving Jerome and Southern Idaho. I know these people. I know the quality. I know the great, great meats that they produce. They offer quality products at very reasonable rates. Selling taste one bite at a time. Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Here now, Michael Rogers Weather.
Hi, everybody. Michael Rogers from MichaelRogersWeather.com. Temperatures on the cooler side this morning. That'll continue throughout much of the day and also for tomorrow as you're on the backside of a cold front. But the winds are still going to be with us. You're looking at 15 to 25 gusts and 35. That'll take place throughout much of the day, and also for tonight won't taper off until tomorrow. And then otherwise, you're going to see clear skies tonight and sunny skies tomorrow, but otherwise, the cooler side of a frontal system is passing through the Magic Valley of south central Idaho. So enjoy the day. Enjoy the weather. It's the only weather you got.
All right. Thank you, Michael. Brought to you by Scarrows Meats, 331 North Road, Jerome, 324-7657. Really good folks. All right. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. You know, some gentleman, I think it was earlier, mentioned, I think it was Keith, mentioned about the Western channel that you can get through the Dish Network. Oh, my. You can get all the old reruns of like Have Gun Will Travel. And you can get Gunsmoke, and you can get Bat Masterson, and you can get just Maverick, everything. Man, I love that channel. I was steered on to that channel thanks to my dear friend Kent Benson, and all the old cowboy stations or shows are on that channel. Very, very fun to watch. I enjoy that. All right, give us a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, are you telling me that you grew up in an era where there really weren't any good cowboy shows on TV?
I remember Bonanza. And,
that wasn't really a good cowboy show.
No.
It was pretty phony.
The only one I really remember, honestly.
Yeah, but you know, look at the reruns of Little Joe, Hoss, Adam, and Pa, and you're growing up on a big ranch in Nevada, and they're clean, well-shaven, their clothes don't have a speck of dirt on them, and that's not realism.
Immaculate, and just, yeah, I remember I was always like in awe of the house that they lived in.
Oh, yeah. You know, did you ever see the movie? And this was one of the most realistic movies that ever occurred and was ever made. It was called The Culpeper Cattle Company. Did you ever see that? Oh, man, I mean, it was all about a cattle drive, and some of the drovers stopped to help some families that were passing through, and then the landowner sent his cowboys down there, and they got into a big gunfight. I mean, it was the most realistic Western, the way things were, the period saddles, you know, and the tack and everything that they used. And then you see the phoniness that they put on like that television show Bonanza, and it just kind of makes you look at Bonanza and say, nah, pretty tacky.
Well, Bonanza was a Hollywood production. It really, really was. But as a kid, I didn't know any better. I mean, I was maybe like 8, 9, 10 when I was watching it.
Yeah, but then you compare it to like, let's even say Gunsmoke. Gunsmoke had more realism as a TV series than Bonanza did. But the one thing a lot of people don't know, and this is a fact, did you ever see the opening of Gunsmoke when Matt Dillon steps out on the street to be challenged by another guy?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I think that, yeah.
Okay, the other guy draws first and shoots first, but Matt Dillon draws second and wins. But here's the story behind that. Do you happen to have any idea who the cowboy was that in the opening sequence of Bonanza really was? You never see his face.
Clint Eastwood.
No.
I have no idea.
His name was Arvo Ojala. And he was the fast draw world's champion, and they hired him to be on that opening sequence of Bonanza or Gunsmoke.
Really?
Yep.
You've got a phone call.
All right, we'll take it. Good morning. You're on the air.
Yeah, I just have a suggestion as far as the wolf hunting, the goes, and I think that if Fish and Wildlife would allow the baiting of wolves, that it would help significantly.
The baiting?
The difference between having to track a wolf and being able to bait them. I mean, they allow baiting of black bears, but the baiting of wolves isn't allowed. And I think that's something that needs to be addressed in the Fish and Game regulations.
I think that
that's something I'd like to see.
You should go to the meetings and voice your opinion, and I agree with you. And I think also you will agree with me that the hunting season, quote unquote, that they have, calling the wolf a big game animal, it's never going to deplete the numbers enough for management. Would you agree?
Well, I think it could, but I think they need to allow baiting. I think baiting would make a big difference.
I agree with you. I agree with you. And I'm going to bring that up to Jack and others, too, and I appreciate your call. Thank you very much for tuning in this morning. That's a good call. I'm going to remember that and talk to Jack Euler about that later on this morning. Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Gina, I got to be honest with you and fair, that growing up as a young man back in Wisconsin, and due to the fact I was hurt quite a bit when I was growing up, Western trivia became my hobby, and that's why I studied all these TV shows. Good morning, caller. You're on the air.
I was just curious. I read an article the other day that said that when Lewis and Clark came through, there were 2 million fed chickens here, and now there's only 200,000. Can you explain to me how they know that?
I got to tell you something. I don't know what you read. I don't know where you read it. But when I read it, the same thing, I went and I talked to my wife. She was out in the kitchen. I remember it vividly, and I said, okay, I want to go back to 180 years ago and find out who in the world was working for the Fish and Game and counted all those birds.
I agree. Well, I appreciate your comment. Thank you.
All right, God bless you. The man brought up an excellent point. They'll say, well, back in the days of Lewis and Clark, there were over 2.7 million birds. Okay, where's the proof? Did you find them, their carcasses, their wings? Was there an official bean counter, or in that verbiage, a bird counter back in those days? Some of the statements that are made about, well, there was 2.3 or 2.7 birds. How do you know? How do you know? Give me a call, 436-2244, 1-866-927-4587. Excuse me for my sore throat this morning. Don't forget, big spring tire sale going on at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Oh, boy, these folks are so good. They're so conscientious, and they're so professional, and the service is so fantastic. And they've got the Ultra Z900, their best all-season touring tire on sale. On sale? Over 20% more tread life, outstanding wet and dry traction, quieter riding tire. You're going to love it. They got all their tires on sale right now, along with batteries, and they've got shocks and struts, front end alignments, everything. You stop in, credit is easy at your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Lane and Rupert, Dave on Blue Lakes and Twin, Mike and Buell, Mike and Jerome, the Twist family in Paul, John on Pauline in Twin Falls, and Randy on Overland and Burley. Your Magic Valley Les Schwab Tire Centers. Well, so Gina, Bonanza's the only Western that you had a chance to grow up on? Good heavens, you poor girl.
Well, I think I do. I think now that you mentioned Gunsmoke, I do remember that one. But I never really did like that one. I always liked Bonanza.
You were just high on old Hoss.
I was.
Yeah. And do you remember the movie that Michael Landon starred in before he was on Bonanza?
No.
Wasn't it? It was the Teenage Werewolf.
No, that was Michael J. Fox.
No, it was Michael Landon.
Was it?
Yep, look it up. You owe me lunch.
I'm Googling.
It was Michael Landon, not Michael J. Fox. It was Michael Landon.
Let's see here.
On the air live. Here we go.
Yeah, we've got a phone call.
Okay,
too.
we'll take
probably going to say you're right.
We'll take the quick call. Good morning. You're on the air.
Do we get a knife too for killing you, Zeb?
Do you get a knife for what?
Do I get a knife for answering your question about Michael Landon?
Yeah, it was Michael Landon, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, in A Teenage Werewolf, that's right. Yeah, go what the heck, when you see me, I'll give you a steak knife, for heaven's sakes. As long as you're not a vegetarian and you eat steak, I'll give you a steak knife.
Okay.
All right, God bless you. Thanks a lot. Have a good day. Yep. Michael J. Fox starred in all the Time Machine movies, but Michael Landon starred in I Was a Teenage Werewolf before he got the contract for being on the TV series Bonanza.
I am actually sitting here looking at his all of his stuff, and I'm not coming across that one.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I got a picture of
Do you
him.
remember the year?
Oh, goodness, it would have been back in the mid-50s or so. I got a picture of him right here in one of the books behind me.
Let's see here. There was Luke and the Tenderfoot.
Oh, boy.
These Wilder Years.
Yeah.
Sheriff of Cochise, Studio 57, The Adventures of Jim Bowie.
Yep.
Crusader.
But if you look up Michael Landon's career with all of it, and he started first with that, I Was a Teenage Werewolf. And you know what? One of the reasons he always wore his hair long is because Michael Landon, honestly, had huge ears, and he was embarrassed about it. That's why he always wore his hair long.
I Was a Teenage Werewolf.
There you go.
Put out in 1957, directed by Tony Rivers.
Yep, see? And I'll take that steak dinner, my dear.
Okay.
All right.
We still owe each other a steak dinner.
I know we do. We're even.
Okay, we're even. Okay, we've got a phone call.
One quick call, 30 seconds. That's all I got. Good morning.
He was on Little House on the Prairie, too.
Yep, that was...
that one was easy.
That was an easy one to pick after Bonanza, but he did an excellent job producing, directing, and believe me, Michael Landon had a lot of talent. A lot of talent. Thank you, sir, for your call. God bless you. Thank you. Well, we padded this half hour. We were expecting to have a call from Kyle Olson with EAGnews.org, and it didn't come to fruition, but we had fun anyway. And we're going to be back tomorrow. We got Doug Johnson, and we've got, who have we got? Our legislature. We're going to have a member of the legislature on the air. We're going to have Grant Gerber, attorney from Elko, on the program. We got all kinds of fun things tomorrow. Right here, Zeb at the Ranch, K-Bar, 1230, streaming live on the net, zebbell.com. God bless. Have a good day.